Does the black moon howl?
Only for those with an unwavering desire to hear the truth.
Access granted.
You have been selected for an opportunity, an orientation as a trusted associate, if you will, into the secured, contained, and protected files of the Foundation. SCP Unredacted distributes new files for review Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on secure channels on YouTube, Spotify, and scp-unredacted.captivate.fm.
Hello and welcome to the Skip Squad Pod trailer. I'm your host, T-Staff4.
And I am your lovely other host, Look Psycho. Also, just wondering, how did you get my house?
Who cares? We're recording the podcast trailer.
Well, it's not the first time she's busted down my door. You gotta stop. I can't afford to replace it again.
Now, let's tell the listeners what we do here. Is it too meta to mention we're reading a script?
You want to talk meta? I didn't know what to put here, so I'm talking about what I should put here.
She also misspelled want.
Anyway.
Right. Back on track. Here at the Skip Squad Pod cast, we don't care about what you write, we care about what you love.
Keeping you entertained with what our authors enjoy most as readers, from GOI formats to formal articles alike.
We don't just talk about guests' favorite SCPs. Each guest will also tell us about their passions and hobbies, completely unrelated to the Foundation.
Whether it's robotics, music, or filmmaking, each guest has their own passions that we love to hear about as well.
You, yes you, the listener, can participate in this along with us. If you send in emails over at skipsquadpod@gmail.com, we will read them out on the show.
When we aren't recording the pod, we document our ventures on various platforms.
You can find us on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
We also have a Twitter where we post preview clips for upcoming episodes along with revealing who we will have on next. Our handle is @SkipSquadPod.
And finally, our website with links to all the listening platforms can be found on the SCP Wiki itself at the Skip Squad Pod Hub.
Now get out.
And have fun. Smile.
Hey there, SCP fans. My name is Grigori Karpin, and this is Simply Creative People, the show about SCP creatives, be they authors, artists, or offsite content creators like YouTube and TikTok. We're focused on bridging the gap between various fans and serving as an introduction to different concepts and stories on the wiki. So, many welcomes to all, and let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to Simply Creative People, to episode 20. And
Yay.
Yay. My name is Grigori.
We will not give you the clap.
Good. My name is Grigori Karpin, author on the wiki, and joined as always.
I am the loser of the SCP 7000 contest, Harry Blank.
Yes, and you never get to make that joke again.
Never, ever.
And today we are joined again, our first repeat guest, Plague PJP. Hello.
What's up? Certified old guard author over here.
That's right.
Yeah.
So something
I was the first repeat guest since I don't think you called me official at the beginning.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But you don't count because you're a co-host.
Yeah, I don't count because
and you're a guest co-host
not math
as well. That's right. I'm gonna turn off notifications. Well, fuck it. Okay. Anyway, so
my understanding with streaming is you're supposed to leave notifications on so you can just hear that weird beeping noise in the background for no reason.
Hopefully, it doesn't happen a lot. Anyway, so because we were all three of us lucky enough to write things that ended up in the top 10 of the 7000 contest, thought that we would get together to talk about some of these articles that we thought deserved more attention that were outside the top 10. Because as much as the top 10 did get a lot of attention, quite a few things below that did not, which is sad, but...
Big con.
Yeah.
It was huge. There were like 130 entries.
It was huge, but I will say that it seems like, as opposed to 6,000, it really dropped off pretty steeply. I mean, even noticeably when you get to me, which was at 10, and even more so below that.
Yeah, I was looking at, comparing it, I was in 6th place. Comparatively to the 6th place last con, they were in the 300s up until maybe 7th place.
Yeah, we were 6th place in the last go.
Readership did seem a little bit low, and that might partially be because so many people wrote novellas, and it just...
Yeah, there were a few. We're going to talk about a couple of them today. There were a few pretty long ones, and
a whole bunch.
And a
lot of them are really good.
Yeah, and there's a place for that.
Mine was long.
Yes, yours was long. Mine was not.
Mine was Mine was twice as long as the longest KCON.
So yeah, we thought, given our experience in doing several cons and being in fairly decent spots, we would talk about some of the other ones to share the wealth. And Plague, you had a pretty good idea about talking about some creative stuff, for maybe people that are thinking about writing for the wiki or wondering whether or not they would have it. Yeah, no shit. Who, would want to get involved the next time there's a contest, whether it's a KCon or something else.
Yeah, get your KCon.
You said, discussing the writing process for a KCon entry and, wanting that sense of scale versus our personal touches to shine. And I thought that was a really good suggestion. So, you first.
Yeah, so mentioning like novella, I think that is a common kind of like pothole a lot of authors will fall into, especially new ones. Where I know for my first ever article on the wiki, I was only familiar with the big things, like the very popular Series 1 articles, the DJ Cactus articles, like all the long ones, like the 1730s, the 3999s, all those. And so you always think like, okay, I need to go scale. No, you really don't. Like, and this is coming from the guy who wrote about Site 19, so you could call me a hypocrite. But let's take Harry's entry, for example. Harry's entry is literally a guy who's unlucky. Like, if you boil it down to the most basic thing, it's a guy who's unlucky. And the sense of scale comes from the story, and it's always like kind of like a meme that you need a narrative, but that narrative will always add more to your story. So you always want to look for an idea that's could be the most basic idea, a anomalous site, a crazy game show, a guy who's a loser. The way you build on that is what makes your article a KCon. And I know this is kind of like not advice in a way, but once you get into a groove of knowing where length fits in and where your sense of scale fits in, you're going to be trucking through writing this article very, very fast. I know Harry, I checked, I was sandbox stalking him, and I saw he had maybe an addendum or two finished, and then I come back 2 days later and the entire thing's done. I'm like, oh my god. So once you get into that groove, you really start to see where your writing can shine in a larger idea. And you don't always need a larger idea either.
Yeah.
Something like...
No, that's true.
Oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, I do think there's something to be said for a small idea inviting further, expansion, where you start with something simple and then kind of see where the story takes you. I think the important thing to think about is that there is not a minimum or a maximum length, and it really depends on what the story is. And I would urge people that are maybe not as comfortable writing longer things or don't have a lot of experience with it to try and hold off at first, because pacing is a challenge, and it always is. I mean, Harry, I know that's what you're mostly worried about when you have other people read your stuff. I mean, that's most of the time what I'm critiquing you on. Is
I go over it 20 times, so there aren't going to be a lot of spelling and grammar mistakes left. So what I really want to know is if it's boring.
Yeah, and I mean, the length is like a immutable thing. Like, I still say that 6,500 is exactly the length it needed to be, and it's the length of a fairly long novel. But most of the things I've written are not like that. Most of the things I've written are like 5,000 words at most, and some of them much shorter. I think it's important. I think, especially with this contest, and, maybe this is overgeneralizing, but so many of them were long, and so many of them I kept seeing moments where I was like, I would have cut this whole thing. And I think there's kill your darlings is a really important, effective, writing technique. And you have to start, and maybe get people that you're not comfortable with, take a look at it. It's a risk, I realize, but sometimes you need to know whether or not the random person on the street who isn't invested in what you're writing will have a problem with it halfway through or whatever.
In my case, I had, you guys are familiar with my writing, but for the audience who might not be, my first article, which was deleted, that was around maybe 12k words, it was self-deleted after maybe a year. But if you're familiar with any of my writing, I don't really write too lengthy of a piece.
Yep.
I think other than my 6K con entry, which was a triple collab, where I had 2 other people to kind of bounce off and help me with the length there. It's around 7,000 words for that one. But other than that, I think my articles kind of average out around maybe 2,000 or 3,000 words.
Yep.
So writing, I'm almost 3 years on this site now, and this contest is the first time I'm writing something with a more serious tone. And while I still try to put humor in there, it's a more serious tone and it's lengthier. So waiting for those 2 years when I finally got like my skills down, and I know that's similar for you guys too, where you guys kind of like adapted to the format a lot and finally became comfortable within the last year or so to write these wacky ideas, or these crazy ideas that need like the length or need different formats, something like a 6500 or our 6K con or our 7K con, where we finally are comfortable to flourish in the format. And it takes time. That's all it is. It's time and practice.
No, totally. I think it's really important for people to spend time writing and reading, and not a little bit of time. That's not to say you shouldn't do anything for 6 months or something, but it is, I think, especially depending on your level of expertise in writing. And I had written a lot before I came to the wiki, and still I had to like retask the way that I write things to fit the formatting. And I agree, like in my 7,000, it wasn't a long thing, but there was some pretty stark departures from a lot of other ways that these contest entries go. And I don't think I would have had the guts or the confidence to do it the way that I did 6 months or even a year ago. And that comes with the fact that I have been writing Victim for a year and a half now, and I really, really know it. And I have zero problem with the emotional and tonal whiplash that I go for in that. But, when people come to me and talk, I want to do Victim right away, I'm like, okay, I really I don't want to make it like necessary that you read all of them, but you should really read a few, quite a few of them to try and get the tone down, because it's hard to describe. And I think that's true of a lot of different things. One of the ones we're going to talk about today, I really liked because Harry recommended, it's Abi's one.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, wow, is this like, not to diminish it. Asabi, if you're listening, this is not diminishing. I love your article. But it feels almost like, hey, I would like to write like Metaphysician writes. And, I know it's obviously been around for a little while. And it's not that it was copying anything from Metaphysician. Nope. But like, I'm pretty sure that Asabi probably wouldn't have felt as confident writing that story and the weird places it goes the first couple of weeks they were on the wiki.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If I look at the thing that I wrote first, as much as I am very proud of it and think that it did very well, and it's like 240 or something, it also, I see all the problems with it in terms of pacing. It was way too invested in the idea of addendums and all that, collapsibles and stuff, which I never use now. I think the biggest, advice I can give before someone tries to write, something significantly long on the wiki, especially for a contest where there's going to be a lot of attention, I would just urge people to get more comfortable in their writing skills and doing that. It's okay to write something smaller at first. That's not to say that it has to be done that way. Big sloth on my face has shown that that's not true. But I certainly think that there's a certain sense of comfortability you have to get. And the only way that you can do, there's no shortcuts. The only way that you can do that is by practicing your ability to write and learning from other people.
Yeah.
On the note of what you were talking about with Asabi and Metaphysician, there is nothing wrong with reading another author's works and taking inspiration from that. Yeah, my first summer on the site, I sat down and read every single one of Daver Commander's articles, and then I went through every single Davey Fool article. And I'm sure you guys both can see where the inspiration comes from there. And once you kind of when I first, Dune knows about this, I first tried to write a Moon Champion wacky character, and I kind of missed the point of Moon Champion, and the article sucked, and I never posted it. But once you finally find your personal kind of shtick, where you're comfortable, that's when it's best to kind of branch off. Like I wrote a horror piece after finally getting comfortable with comedy and knowing that that's my backbone to fall on. And then, like I mentioned, I wrote the somewhat serious 7K. So taking inspiration, playing around with ideas, and until you become comfortable is the best course to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess since I supposedly won the contest, I suppose I should probably have some kind of... Well, it's what everybody tells me. I haven't really been paying attention, but...
Shut up!
Yeah, I wasn't worried. I spent the whole month just on a beach, totally relaxed. I didn't have any anxiety whatsoever. This took, years off my life. For me, I think it just sounds like a very obvious piece of advice, but I will make it slightly less obvious, is that the whole thing needs to be in service of the idea and executing the idea the way that the idea deserves to be executed. Because I went into this with goals. One of the goals was not to be longer than 6,000. Absolutely did not want to have a long article. Wanted to have an article that was 7,000 words long. I went in with the idea, and the idea happened the day the theme dropped. I read the theme and I went, well, it's luck. It has to be about my character who has bad luck, that Ip wrote that lovely, lamest story never told that gives him this backstory of his bad luck anomaly. And I thought, well, it has to be that. And I thought, okay, so I can write a thing about this character, Dr. William Weddle, and it can be 7,000 words long. And for it to be a KCON story about a guy who's got bad luck, it should be something about luck going bad on a global scale and his luck staying shit for no reason he can figure out. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. That's a good solid one for about 7,000 words. And I did only want it to be that long because I was trying to be a little mercenary about it. I was thinking, this idea is good enough that this is probably the best KCON idea I'm going to get, so this might be my chance to maybe win one if I'm really, really, really lucky. I had no expectation that I would win it at all, but I thought this was maybe a good shot at it. So I wanted it to be something people would digest and read. So I went into it thinking it should be 7,000 words long, and I desperately wanted it to be that. And then I didn't do that. And the reason I didn't do that is I decided to make it as good as it could be as opposed to making it marketable, because I worked on the idea and I went, all right, here's the character, here's the arc. He has this number of things happen to him. He has this number of revelations. He talks to the audience while pretending to talk to the recorder several times, and he has these character developments. The background characters have these developments. The overall plot has to be about this big in order for the emotional beats to be justified. And the more I wrote, the more I went, fuck, shit, piss. This can't be 7,000 words long. It's impossible. You can't just jump from emotional revelation to emotional revelation. There needs to be something in between, making the scale make sense, making a bit of a buffer between events. There needs to be comedy here if there's going to be character development here, and there needs to be comedy throughout because this is an inherently funny idea, and if it's not funny all the way through, the audience won't stick with it all the way through. And I kept looking at it and going, it needs to have this many scenes in this order, and they have to be this long to be functional, and fuck it, it's almost 17,000 words, and that's absolutely not what I wanted under any circumstances. But if it wasn't 17,000 words, it wouldn't achieve whatever it achieves, it wouldn't be as good, and it wouldn't have won. So somehow, my decision to just make it as long as it needed to be to get to where it needed to go worked, which I am immensely grateful that enough people were willing to be patient and read the article. But part of that was also pacing, as you were saying, and I tried to make sure that there was, no matter what you came here for, there was something going on at least every few hundred words to keep your attention, which is part of the reason why I wrote and rewrote and rewrote, to make sure that there was, without feeling like a cavalcade of absurdity, there was a good gag every once in a while just to keep the people who need humor paying attention. And in the end, it was not long because I wanted it to be long. And I think there were KCON entries that were like, this has to be epic, so I'm going to make it huge.
Yeah.
I was going the opposite direction, and I think that's the only legitimate way to reach a long length in an article. I think it's an illegitimate decision, like an actually bad, maybe never defensible opinion, to go, I'm going to come into this to write a really long thing. I think that's always, maybe even like objectively, the wrong thought to have. I think the thought is this idea has to be as long as it takes to effectively and efficiently achieve the idea, and that's where the idea of the length comes from. If it justifies it and it does more with the length, it should be long. If it doesn't, it shouldn't. And this one just needed to be that long.
Yeah, you got there in an organic way, which is the reason why length can work for you. I mean, there were multiple times in writing parts of 6500 that I was like, this is too long, I need to cut this, or, well, okay, no, it's going to have to be, well, it doesn't make sense if it doesn't. They need to go here, and then they need to go here. And and I honestly say, if you look at the individual parts of 6500, there are parts of it where we were all pretty circumspect, and not going as deep into character development and descriptions of environments as we could have been if it was a standalone literary piece.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I think you're right that the only way to make a lengthy thing work is if it's in service to the point of it, where it's like, okay, I need these things, not just because I decided it, but because it fits right. And revising is a huge part of that. I mean, maybe not as often and as detailed as you do it, but revising is, you know, super important, of course.
It just has to be as long as it has to be, and it can't just be long because you want it to be epic. If it's an epic idea, it will naturally achieve its epic scale, and you would be remiss in not achieving it. If it is not a naturally big, cool, crazy idea, it shouldn't have big, cool, crazy length because it is wasting someone's time. So you just let the length organically occur based on the execution of the thing. And it isn't like a KCON piece needs to be a giant event either. The last 3 are big, crazy events. The rest of them are not. And I'm pretty sure eventually there will be one that's just a thing that does a thing that has a good story attached to it that's 4,000 words long. And that will be good as well. So just pick the best idea you have, execute the idea the best way you can, and however long it is however long it is.
Yeah, to get a little... go ahead, Greg. No, go for it.
When you guys, even not for like a KCON piece, I assume Harry does, but he can correct me, but do you guys physically outline when you're writing? Because I have a point I want to make. No?
I only did that when I was writing my novel that's just come out. I did that because it was
more of like
huge.
a stream of consciousness thing?
I write everything in completely the wrong order, just willy-nilly all over the place.
Oh,
and
really?
Then I revise it sensibly into the correct order.
I do an outline, but it's very loose.
Surprise!
Yeah. But it's very, very loose because I find that if I write a detailed outline, the energy I have to write the article is gone. So I don't do that, and it feels like a cage at that point, and so I don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to learn, and it's so whenever I recommend people do outlines, I'm always throwing out the caveats that it's super loose. I want a scene where something like this happens. I want a scene where something like this happens. Maybe briefly I have a conversation between these two characters, and the idea is to go for this emotion. That's as much as I do. Because if I was to really detailed out and it happens here and then this happens and then this happens, then the piece is worse. And usually almost all my writing goes into more of a flow of consciousness, and it's only loosely constrained by this skeleton.
Right.
Because otherwise I don't like what I write, and I have thrown away some drafts because of it. Or by throwing it away, I mean I've rewritten it entirely. Because almost every draft I've written is on the site, which is funny.
The reason I ask is because this is the 7,000 contest. My entry was the first time I've ever done somewhat of an outline. Because normally I kind of have the idea pop into my head and wait for the story to form on itself. So once I did that, I think if you have an idea that kind of you feel is going to be long, or even an idea in general that you're worried about length, it's a good idea for like newer authors to kind of pace it out in a way that's like outlineable. It does, like Grigori said, loose outline, because mine was literally addendum 2, this happens, beat, 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 addendum 3, this happens, beat, beat, beat. Right. And you see in Harry's entry how you have an A plot and a B plot going on, kind of with everything going wrong with Weddle, and then the Chaos Insurgency and the Overseer Council. So you kind of have those two things bouncing back and forth. And that's something where you kind of have to realize that length plays a part into, and you have to balance that out right. And Harry did that perfectly, but for a newer author, that could be somewhat difficult. So it's a good place to know what length works in your favor and where it doesn't. So when you come up with an idea, I think the best thing you can do is sit down, think about it, ruminate, and then if you need an outline, write one out. If not, get a description and addendum down. Even if you can't come up with an ending, can't come up with another beat in the story, have something down, and that'll help your brain connect the dots.
Absolutely, yeah. That was in my mind the whole time. Was there's two plots going on. They both need to have some sense of equal airing so that they're both getting somewhere, and fitting them together so that you're bouncing between the two of them organically was definitely something I had to plot out. But that happened between iterations as opposed to planning. If I'd planned it better, it probably would have gone smoother, but I was also writing in a panic.
I will say, to get into the nitty-gritty just a little bit about the organic length conversation, I think instead of, to make it just a little less esoteric, the idea that people have, sometimes they're frustrated when writers are like, well, it just needs to be as long as it needs to be, or, what organically comes. The idea that we're talking about is, okay, I want to reach this next conclusion. What would make sense between now and that next conclusion? And how could I make them fit? Harry doesn't do it and somehow makes fucking great stories. But it can be very useful to write an outline if you are worried about getting lost in an idea.
Yeah.
So, especially if you but you're worried this is a big idea that's maybe going to get long. Because I think, in general, outlines do help with pacing.
Yeah. Of course, absolutely.
But and separately, the thing that I think really works, and in short articles and long articles, is having it's not even an A B plot and a B plot sometimes, but it's two aspects of an article that you're bouncing between.
Yes.
It's why I think Victim has resonated with so many people, because it goes really creepy, bleak horror and then switches into like absurdist. But I will often actually think about how I'm going to do that. And it's not as simple as, oh, now I did this, so now I should do this. But I do kind of have it in my head, this balance, this weight, and saying, okay, did I go this far? Okay, now I should switch it back. And I did that with 7K with the videos, because there was all absurdism. And then the videos were completely deadpan, but they're ridiculous. And they're just ridiculous in a completely different way.
Good.
Yeah, they're ridiculous because they don't even organically contribute to the plot. So that's the humor of them. They're played completely straight and serious, and you have no idea why they're there, and you're like, what? Like, I don't mean the parts that are the ads. I mean the parts with the journals. You're just like,
well, I was talking to Vivarium because Vivarium came up with the structure, which has been very helpful, and he also did it with the first game show one that we did, 5681, I think, where, I just have never watched game shows. I kind of hate game shows. And I was like, I don't have any experience. This is a great idea, but I don't know how they work. And so Vivarium came up with like the characters and sort of their background a little bit, and the sorts of games that we could do. And I kind of massaged them and changed them in a lot of ways. But as I was going through that process, and a lot of the day-to-day writing I was doing myself, I was like, well, we're going to do ads. And he's like, well, how are we going to do ads? I'm like, I'm going to make videos. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've been learning how to make videos. We're going to do it. It's fine. And then I was like halfway through making the first video. And these took fucking hours for things that are a minute long. But I was like, what if we had an interruption? What if the ads are already an atonal interruption from the story? What if we had an atonal interruption from the ads within the ads? And he was like, that sounds insane. Just fine, do it, whatever. Like, he was just like riding the roller coaster I was setting him on, I think. But it was very much a sense of like, what I wanted from 7Con with Misfortune Gorge was for it to fit in with any of the other Victim articles, but also one that not only showcase the weirdness for maybe new readers to hopefully get people interested in the GOI, but also for it to be something completely different. And so I was like constantly balancing this feeling of like, I want it to be just like a victim article and not be some epic thing, but I also want it to like really stand out. And there was a lot of atonal, whiplash going on, which I really enjoy. But
yeah, it worked out big time.
Yeah,
anyway, so yeah, general advice, plan things
Be good
out.
to yourself.
Yes. But if you want to do something for a KCON or any contest entry, knowing that there are going to be more eyes on it, don't be as concerned with, I want to make something epic. It doesn't have to be something epic. Harry's Yours is epic and isn't epic, which I really fucking like.
Yeah.
It's epic and it's about a guy falling on his face.
Right. It's just a character piece, but it's also not. And it's, which is really, I don't know how you manage that, but it really works.
A month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But like plan things out. Really do think about what it is you're trying to write about. If your goal is just to make a splash and just to do something epic, hold off, let that idea, percolate a bit, like Plague was saying.
So many ways you could take an idea.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing. Do not be constrained by your original thought process. That's why I make loose outlines. And if the outline doesn't work for where I'm going with it in the middle of the article, I fucking throw it away.
Yes.
Do not consider yourself caged by what your original goal was. Sometimes you can think of a completely left turn a story can take, and it works beautifully.
That's something I experienced with an article about the horse skeleton. I had no idea how to end that thing. And then I had it set in Ralston's canon from the beginning, and somehow this idea just passed me by until I was like laying in bed one night, and I was like, oh my god, I just make this thing a fae and then it steals their names. You have those lightning bolt moments every so often when you write an article, and it feels great.
And it feels so completely organic. It feels like that was the idea you started with, is how well you executed that. In the
I
article,
think it's one of my best.
Yes, in the article,
It's
which he's avoiding saying the name because of how non-indicative it is, but it is, of course, called 8 Mile Beast of Lust and Hatred Born.
It's really fitting, but it is.
I guess Plague has forgotten the name of his own.
No,
I forgot that joke you made. Where you stole Ralston's.
I haven't heard it out loud since the last podcast.
We'll have to say it once per podcast. It's Ralston's horrible original CupidCon title plus 8 Mile for some reason.
Well, because it's kind of a rap battle, so that was the original title.
Okay,
I just
get
want to
you.
make fun of Ralston, so I took the title.
I've done a lot of things just to make fun of Ralston. It's true.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was going to say. Whatever.
Probably make fun of Ralston.
No, probably not. Yeah, so I mean, I think, oh, I do remember what I was going to say. So my first thing that I was doing for our Department Con entry, I mean, I had the idea right from the beginning. Ep was very interested in, and he sold us both on it, of this idea of this department that dealt with economic anomalies, and then taking one of each of the articles and showcasing like a decade. Then what that decade, it was very cool, what that decade emphasized. And I got the second one, which was the 80s. And I thought, what better thing than like gross capitalism, but like, Wall Street type capitalism, Wolf of Wall Street, that kind of thing, and the Satanic Panic. And so that's all I was doing, was just making a like shameless capitalist like corporation, but in that goofy 80s sort of way that also was like actually the Satanic Panic for real, and the Foundation is actually making the Satanic Panic to cover up the real weird satanic stuff that's going on. And I could not think of a way to end it until I just decided to make it a stealth 3 Moons Initiative article.
Right, and that was such a good ending. Shit, I forgot about that.
Which I still like so much. And so that stuff can just happen, where you just kind of get to the end. Sometimes I have the ending all the way, from the beginning. I know exactly what I want. It's just how do I get there? And then other times it's like, I know how to get there. I'm not sure what I want it to be, though. Just
I think that's like that ought to be the next creative corner. Is just the times that you suddenly had a bolt from the blue and changed what you were doing at the last minute and found a sudden solution to a problem. There's a good topic.
Yeah, that is good.
Lock Goblin.
Goblin.
But all right, let's get into the subject matter. So
Yeah, let's do that.
7000's theme was luck.
Yes, it was, and boy, was I lucky.
Very controversial.
It was very controversial. People were pretty upset, and I think
I
people
loved
were.
it from the start.
I didn't care for it personally, but
Most people didn't like it. I thought it was
I didn't
great,
hate
and I
it.
won, so I guess there's the solution. you have to just think that you like the theme and you'll win.
you liked it because you immediately knew how to solve the problem.
I liked it because I didn't come in with a draft half written. Bitches.
Well, yeah, I never do that either. Sorry, don't do that.
It's like half the people do.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, obviously.
Nope.
But luck was, fairly controversial from authors' perspective.
So was nature.
So was nature, and that worked out pretty fucking great. And so did this one. And I think there's a lot of concern when you get a luck that seems relatively narrow. And I think most of the articles were not what we expected. There were a lot of really very original and intriguing ways to address the problem.
Oh yeah,
Very
everybody.
smaller articles. We were talking about scale, but there was a lot of small, quaint articles. What comes into mind is peace staffers, Sumerians, those articles that were very small anomalies with a very shorter stories or very close to home stories that really did well.
Yeah, like the one that I'll tell you anything. The one about the fish that we have to pretend we don't know who wrote. That one.
Oh yeah,
was really short.
That's great. The anonymous author we all don't know.
Yes.
I genuinely don't know. But okay. So
I'll tell you later.
Okay. The contests, I think, we did talk about what contests are like. But just in case someone did not listen to that KCON episode, the idea is that we break out lists on the wiki, kind of a series of slots, and not usually, always 1,000 long, when we get close to filling up the last one. And then there's a contest that's held usually for a month and a half, and it's based on a theme. And then the idea is whoever wins gets the, initial article. So Harry won, he got the 7,000 contest. And then when you write one of these articles, you put in your author post, hopefully, here are some backup ones if I don't win. And so that's why so many of these are going to feel they're not similar, but why they all kind of are themed around luck is because, it's kind of it's the big contest whenever this one gets brought up. And sometimes there's a lot of time in between, and sometimes there's only a year and a half. When we went through the previous contest, we noticed that actually it happened a few times where there was only a year and a half. So it's people worried about it filling up too fast. Maybe that's a problem, but it seems like that happens not infrequently. So
yeah, if it happens again, I think we'll have to start thinking about doing things different. If the next one's in a year again, I think we're going to have to see what we can do about maybe
because it's I don't want to be negative. But I think the problem is that it eats up a lot of time where anything else can be done on the wiki. Anything that you put up, I put up an article before the end of the contest and it's languished. And because no one's going to pay attention to it. And so everyone avoids it.
If this was if the KCON period was any longer and more pointless and destructive to getting anything else done, it would be the American electoral system.
We mentioned how they're a month or a month and a half long, but also taking into consideration how site culture works. From when that contest is announced, readership just drops because everyone's writing. So there's 3 weeks as the contest announced. If you post something, it's going to languish. During the posting period, you're going to get swept up if you don't post something for the contest. And then for about two or so weeks after the contest, everybody's kind of recovering. Yeah. So you're dealing with that as well. So it's about a month, 2.5 months of just consistent attention on this thing, and everyone is tired afterwards.
Very.
Yeah. There's always that, sometimes upwards of a month or 2 months after the contest is over that people are just ugh. And so, if that were to happen once a year, then we're talking about a third of the year being like demolished, and that kind of sucks. So anyway, so the goal here was for each of us to come up with 3 articles outside of the top 10 that we really liked. So first, Plague, you picked out SCP-7200 Boats by Ace Mallard and SMLT.
Oh, I love this article.
Yes, this is very, very good. It's a short comparatively to the other entries article.
Quite short.
Is an anomalous phenomenon causing the disappearances of non-military ships in international waters. And the article just kind of follows that as the Foundation is attempting to stop these random disappearances through different means of containment. And I'm not going to spoil the article, but they finally come up with one that initially flew over my head and had to have explained to me, but I absolutely love it. It's such like it's not very like written out in the article. They have to look out for hints. But once you see it, it's really funny, it's really cute, and it's just like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's amazing. They're like all of these boats are disappearing. We're losing a significant proportion of all the boats in the world are disappearing for some reason. And their solution is not even let's find out why or let's stop it from happening. It's let's figure out what the rules of this are and lawyer the fuck out of those rules.
The attempts to contain it are probably my favorite part of it, because they all make like some really smart sense. Like, and this isn't spoiling it, but like they're gonna, well, what if we tagged a whole bunch of commercial ships? And that doesn't work. And what if we put people on the ships to see what happens? Well, it doesn't work. And they start escorting the ships with like a naval. Well, it doesn't work. It's really, I liked the methodical way that they tried to deal with the containment, because so often containment is just, we're just expecting them to read between the reader to fill in the blanks in between the lines and go like, oh, they came to this way. And something I feel like is missing from the articles pretty often, and I don't do it that often either, is, well, how did we get to this? How did we get to this containment procedures? And I think that's pretty fun to watch them fall on their face. I have to say, we don't have to spoil it, but I don't understand the twist.
Really? You don't?
No. Yeah.
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
But
We'll include it in our list of things to explain to you after the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I read it twice, and I was like, I know what it's. I don't know.
It's a really when you hear it out loud.
I'm sure I'll feel dumb. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also this is a completely stupid thing to compliment an article on, but it uses tables really cleverly because it has an image that you can see how the image has progressed over time. And
tabs.
Tabs. I didn't mean to say tables. It uses tabs correctly, which is a very rare thing, and I don't mean like not correctly. I mean it used it cleverly. It uses the tabs so that you can switch between versions of the image, which is good because the image carousel component we have for switching between images doesn't fucking work most of the time.
Well, and also it's just not very attractive.
Story too.
It does, because it kind of adds to the stakes. Because you see the first one and it's like, oh, it's a couple of ships, and you see the next one, you're like, oh, it's more ships, and then the third one, you're like, oh shit. There's a lot of ships going missing.
Considering how important ships are to the human race in general.
Yeah, it's still the most common way to transport, 80 to 90% of all goods and food and material.
It's funny that it was using tabs, because I've never seen tabs used to show progression in an image before, and it kind of makes sense in a sense because the article's by Ace Mallard and Smilt, and Ace Mallard's one of the captains of the tech team, and Smilt runs Crom, the robot that we use to find all our articles. So of course they figured out a clever thing to do with
it's something I really want to use. I don't know what I would use it for, but it's
the same thing.
It's very smart, and I would expect a lot of people.
It's so simple. I can't believe nobody, as far as I've seen, nobody has thought of doing this before.
It's very smart.
And normally people just put text in their tabs, which is of course a thing that perverts and monsters do. Fuck off with tabs.
Hey,
nobody likes tabs. Nobody likes reading tabs. Those dossier tabs you did are different because they make it look like a dossier. Most people just throw tabs in tab view, and they look like shit, and they make the article seem shorter than it is, which pisses everybody off.
Yeah.
No, I've only done it where they look like a dossier are cool.
I only did it twice, and one was to recreate an actual file, and the other one was the Davite hub, which is the same kind of goal.
Those were very cool. And other than that, and doing hubs, tabs should be illegal. So have we finished?
First below one proposal used them well. I think just it added
Which
to
one?
the Memento Mori, his first.
Oh yeah, well, it makes a lot of
okay. Yeah, the tabs make a lot of sense on that one.
They're also not very long, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
They're not huge.
Yeah,
They're like a very short description, maybe an interview, maybe like a little transcript. Really,
that's what I really like. If you use tab, I mean, sometimes I think it's unavoidable, but when I see people use tabs and they're like all things that fit, they don't expand at all.
Yeah.
It's especially if there's a strong image component, because I think it's really fun to hide images in them.
Yeah.
But
If you're hiding stuff, that's good.
use
As long as it's not
in-
length that you're hiding.
yeah,
Sorry.
It's a comic pitfall. I think the best use I've seen, other than the images in this, for like text space is literally Mechanical's ethics committee inquest, where it's just like you're playing an ethics committee, like member of the ethics committee, and you're just reading through these files. So it makes sense there, as long as you have a reason in universe to use them.
Exactly.
A good reason to use them.
I'm really glad that it exists to like recreate the idea of a file, like we talked about last episode. That Chaos Insurgency briefing, which is like what Slate Thunder or whatever, that used the tabs to like recreate the idea of this file. I like that.
That's what they're good for.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very short
that's
and
boats
it's
and
really,
also
really
tabs.
fun. But yeah. This next one is not short, but it's still fun. I'm a little jealous of this next one because they actually did what we were originally trying to do with 6500, and then we kind of just made a novel.
Is this actually the original idea?
Our original idea was to do a choose your own adventure novel.
I had to look at the outline to see which one it was you did.
Yeah, so Harry, you picked this one, which is SCP 7. Yes.
Which one?
7390 Grimsley Tudge. By,
Grimsley Trudge,
by
Jack Ike.
Yeah,
I love this article.
Yeah, it's really good.
This is, I think, the differential article. I think this is the worst rated high quality article in the contest.
Yeah,
this has the lowest rating compared to its quality of all of them, and not downvotes, just people not fucking reading.
I admittedly
really
did
like
not finish this, but I got maybe like 2 or 3 offsets in. I enjoyed it, so I'm gonna finish it after the cast.
Well, depending on how you
That's a
vote,
nice piece of writing.
you'd be done by the 4th offset, I think. Which is cool.
It is cool.
So yeah, why don't you explain?
A lot of trouble.
I mean, don't explain the anomaly because that's spoiling it. But like,
I'm not going to spoil the
what's the setup?
Yeah. So I think when people see, like, people who know the names of authors who aren't the top 10, I think when people see Jack Ike, they expect an article to be some extraordinarily complex, maybe pataphysical, maybe technological, maybe like conceptual mind screw weird thing, because that's one of the things that Jack Ike does a lot of and does them well. This isn't that at all. This is one of the least Jack Ike articles I've ever read, and it is nevertheless extremely good because it is, and the entire offsite community groans, it is mostly a story. It is mostly a tale. It is set up as a tale, and you look at it and you go, I don't even see the fucking SCP. And you can scroll all the way across the first offset, the first page, and go, no fucking SCP. What the hell? It's a tale. It's a tale about this guy, whose name is indeed Grimsley Trudge, who works for a Foundation department, and his job is going to be to find out how a disaster worked and what's going on, and do a Foundation disaster investigation. But there's a gimmick to the tale, and the tale is that Mr. Trudge has this weird little thing he does where he flips a coin for some important decisions in his life. And so when you reach the end of one page of this article, you flip the coin yourself and you get the heads or tails option. And because there's several offsets to the story, it branches off bit by bit when he decides to either do the heads thing or the tails thing based on what you get with your coin. And the way that you progress through the story will determine what the SCP is, because the SCP does show up at the end. And it's different depending on how you progress through the story, which is a great, clever way of doing things that I think really deserved more attention, because not only that, the prose in this is really good.
It is.
It's a
really
really good story. The characters are funny and interesting, and the main character is likable. The other character is less likable. It feels real. It's fleshed out. It's a department that's an interesting department, and it's just a really good story. And it's at 49, and I'm just mad at everybody.
Well, it's it's an intimidating piece.
Yeah, and it does feel that way, and it isn't actually even that long because of that. Although it is if you want to read every version of the story.
And I'm not gonna. I read the part I like, and I really like it, and we're good.
You got the canonical ending.
To me, but now it's at 50 because I didn't upload it before. So,
aha! Yay!
I do want to read a part of the prose from the first page as soon as you open it. I really, really like.
Hit it. Go for it.
Where'd it go? The coin is old, older than Grimsley by 2 decades, and shows clear signs of its age. But over the past 4 decades since he's found it, Grimsley has become adept at caring for it, preserving the remaining vestige of silver it retains from its melting in 1959. He still remembers that discovery too. 7-year-old Grimsley was given a handful of coins by his mother so he could buy a pair of Coca-Cola from a vending machine. In went the coins and out came the coin. Rejected. I love that.
Oh, it's great. I like even more so that, like, they kind of go a little bit deeper into it and realize that, well, the coin is like nothing special, but it is. But it is something special. It's really, really quite good. This is also another piece that ties into Jack Ike's was part of the logistics department in the department con, and this one does really a wonderful job of like further exploring that concept. But you don't have to have read any of those other ones to understand. This is perfectly self-contained.
Yeah, it's a good proof of concept for that idea.
It's really good.
It's a lot of fun. It is not in any sense a trudge.
Really, really, it's a really unfortunate that's at 50. I hope that people that listen to this will give it a shot because it is seriously crazy underrated.
Absolutely, it is.
All right, so we are going to move on to something I think you also see, because I was like working so much. I didn't read nearly enough during the contest. I was working so much during this. And
I read most of them. I didn't read all of them because there were 130.
I've still only read like maybe a third of them, but
I was in first place. I felt I kind of owed everybody who was reading my stuff to read their stuff, so I went as far as I could.
If I had been unemployed like in 6K, I would have read most of them again. I just was working like 50 to 60 hours a week. So the next one we're going to do is one that I picked up, which is SCP-7998 Eel Days by an actual crow.
Oh, this is a good article.
It's a really, really
This is one of my favorites, too. I love this article.
It's so fantastic.
It is. It's unique.
Okay, so the SCP is an anomaly, is a probabilistic phenomenon causing mutation, oftentimes with significant abilities attached, though not always. And it's much, much more likely to happen with humans. It's like something like 0.3% of all humans are. And then further than that, the SCP Foundation has decided to start hiring these people. Instead of containing them, it has started hiring them, and roughly 70% of the people that have interesting mutations are working for the Foundation. And this is a world in which the Foundation is in the public eye. It's like Broken Masquerade, although I will point out that this is not technically part of Broken Masquerade. It's more of a, in the future, it's its own little thing. And the story centers around one of these people that has a mutation, obviously. And this guy is unfortunate because his mutation is just that one of his arms is a fucking eel. And it's an eel that is like alive and has a brain, but it's not like an eel that can talk. It's just a fucking eel that he calls Lefty. And he doesn't have any special powers. And it's pretty early on, it's pretty clear that he is very unhappy with his position within the Foundation because he got hired to do, to make a difference and to do research. He's a scientist. And it's pretty clear that he's very unhappy because other people are getting significantly, they're just able to do more quicker, and he's kind of being left behind, and they tap him to do PR. And what's really funny is the way that they notice that he is unhappy is because he starts editing the file, and the way that he's editing the file is like super depressing. He's like listing all the experimental results of his anomaly, which is like Dr. DeSanti hates his coworkers. Dr. DeSanti does not know if eels are capable of hate. One day, Dr. DeSanti will drive 5 hours to the beaches of Western Italy. There, he will cut off his arm so the eel may return to the sea. Morel eels cannot survive in Mediterranean waters. It's just this bleak as fuck thing, and it's awaiting approval. And then he gets called in by a supervisor to be like, hey, maybe you're not, in the right spot. Maybe you should be doing PR. And at first he pushes back against it, and then he kind of decides, oh, fuck it, I'll do it. And it's, I'm not going to read most of it. It's not a short one, but it's not super long either. I feel like it's pretty often pretty funny, but it's also kind of a touching character study, and also a discussion of like somebody being forced into a situation that they didn't want to be, and trying to make the best of it. And the conflict is never like obvious. It's this very personal kind of conflict. And I really, really fucking loved it.
It reminded me a lot of that Radiger Bear-Man piece. Man-Bear piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Bit. Like that one's a bit more ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a little more edged
thing.
in comedy, yeah.
This one is really cool because you have this like crazy idea and it's played straight for pretty much the entire description. No real like jokes around it, and then you get to the experimental results like you were mentioning, Grigori. And then like for the most part after that there is like humor scattered throughout, but like this is played pretty straight. Mm-hmm. You kind of just see this character like kind of hate his job into like learning to somewhat like it. And I found that really interesting for such like a wacky idea that it becomes more of a character study that it was very, very unique.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go.
No, yeah, just the idea that it's an anomaly that's turning a very significantly large proportion of the global population into super mutants, and that's the anomaly. But it's actually really about this guy with an eel for an arm. And for me, the thing that makes this stick out, like it's a great character piece, and it's actually presented really well with these little documents rearranged with interviews and such that really bring out the characters. But for me, the thing that makes it really stick in my head is it has this Watchmen / Lord of the Rings thing going on, where it feels like the author thought up an entire setting in detail to tell one story that didn't cover that all.
Yeah.
So the whole thing feels unique to itself and a coherent universe that is like unique to this story. And that's the background for this individual story they're telling within it. So like this feels like somebody just dropped a canon in a single story. And I'm like, that's really cool. I really love this.
The article is like, I don't know, like 7,000 words, maybe 8,000. But it feels like he has like a Bible. I don't know. An actual crow has a Bible that is like, the length of a novel to describe all the details of this setting. And then they just use that as like peppering in details. It's so good.
I don't know why, but I was getting very big like Black Mirror-ish vibes, like not in the like very bleak horror Black Mirror.
Totally.
For some reason, it felt like a Black Mirror episode.
Well, it's kind of a near future setting, and it's dealing with a fairly big sea change in the way that society works, but it's also doing it in a very grounded, understandable way, which is what Black Mirror does really well, I feel like. Yeah, there's
it's only like 4,000 words.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
so we don't slander it.
Yeah, sorry. My point was that it was short, but it feels like you said, this bigger part of this world that maybe will never get touched again, and maybe an actual crow has like 50 other stories to tell. But the thing I really liked about it was, like Plague was just saying, is that there's like it's a really good character study, and as we watch him, DeSanti get more and more comfortable, we can actually see it happen. Because we get to see like the first attempts at him doing PR all the way to like when he feels more comfortable. And there's a real arc to it. And I just there's a part of it where instead of making, let's tell this entire conversation, there's this really fairly brilliant idea that it's just these 1 to 2 sentence segments of things that DeSanti is saying in response to questions.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
This part's fucking brilliant. I can't even deal with how funny this is. And not even funny, because there's funny bits in it, but like it just does such a great job of showing off first how uncomfortable this person is, and then by the end how he kind of feels like he knows how to, not manipulate, but like to handle an audience.
Yeah.
But there are really funny parts in it, and I just thought I would read a couple of them. One, and these are all like responses to either people asking a question or something else. No, fish don't have a god. If they did, I wouldn't know about it. Yes, I've done research, but I'm also on the PR team. That stands for public No, sir, we don't make propaganda films. What? We don't eat babies? Where'd you even get that idea? I want to hear the rest of that conversation so bad. That's a very personal question. It's just so like there's other ones. There's a running joke where like
I like the running joke.
People keep asking about Pairwatch, and he's like, I don't know. And then like he's asking his coworker, "What's Pairwatch?" I don't know, because this is like 2080 or something.
I love the inversion of that, because on Parawatch articles, you'll see them vaguely getting the sense that there might be a foundation out there, and they're trying to, what are these people who are working against us to keep the truth suppressed? And then this is from the Foundation's point of view, and this guy who works there has no idea what Parawatch is. It's some weird other thing he doesn't know.
Oh my god, it's so, and it's, no, I don't know anything about Parawatch. I'm in a discussion between him and his superior. Do you know what Parawatch is? Huh. Feels like every other person wants to know about Parawatch. I've never even heard of it. It's really good.
I had worked with Crow and Dune, whose article is going to come up later in the show on 6K, and it's really fun to see how we guys, all of us, kind of worked together to build this massive, very bleak, dark article, and then we came out. Well, Dune's and
Dune's is still bleak.
His article is still bleak, but like Crow and I, we just kind of branched out and went back to a bit of our roots and did these crazy comedy pieces, and it's a lot of fun to just see how those we've developed over here, because Crow had a great 2021 posting, and then he kind of took a break, and then now he comes back with this, and it is so good, same level of quality and even better. Yeah, I really do like this one, and the pictures in it are great too. I don't think
the
we
pictures are
mentioned the picture.
So well done, especially the final picture is absolutely.
The final picture is incredible,
flawless.
I don't even know.
We saw a few like different versions of it, and he was working on that for like a day or two.
Yeah, I was seeing these pictures all throughout the writing period. I remember seeing them coming up, going, "What the hell is that?"
I am so impressed with some of the technical aspects to that last picture. Like that are very subtle. Yeah, the reflection is really well done, and I hate. And now I'm looking at it, now I realize how he did it. But still, I'm very impressed with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey there, fans of Simply Creative People. We're mostly unsponsored so far, so I figured I would take the time to mention that you can support the show on the show page at anchor.fm/simplycreativepeople. Or, if you're so inclined, you can check out Harry or my Ko-Fi pages at ko-fi.com/harryblink or /Grigori Carpin author. Things are crazy tough out there, so if you can't afford any financial support, and trust me, we understand, do us a favor and mention the podcast to someone who might enjoy it, or spread the word online. If we want to bridge the gap between fans and creators, we've got to get the word out to new fans. In many ways, this show is designed to be appealing to new and old fans of SCP alike, as we can all enjoy some discussion about this thing we love, and we can all learn something new. Heaven knows I learn something new every week. Thanks so much, and we love you just for listening. Thanks for the support through all these first few months of the podcast. You're the best.
Well, let's move on a little bit to one that Plague you picked out, which is 13 indeed, SCP-7013.
Oh, yes. And that's by Jack Waltz and Fishish.
Yes.
Yeah, this one's a very short article. Maybe I don't even think it's 1,000 words.
No, probably not.
And so it's basically a probabilistic anomaly that is affecting the Overseer's Council to carry out its functions and doing it well, and it's affected by Overseer 13. And so you're led into that, just the description that basically explains what's been going on and how they've kind of come to find this. And you're just placed right into this meeting log that immediately just goes into these somewhat wacky overseer characters as they're interacting with each other, trying to figure out how to solve it. And then it ends in the most abrupt way possible. That is a very obvious punchline, but it's so funny. And that's just it. It just leaves you with that, and you're just like, okay, I'll take that.
Talk about left turns.
I know.
Oh, this guy's a probabilistic anomaly. He's a real problem of 513. I wonder how this is going to play out. And it kind of doesn't.
They deal with it in the, like, if it didn't work for the joke so well, I would be like, well, that was cheap. But it works for the joke so fucking well that you're just like, all right, pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty fucking good. The last line,
really good.
Fishes is great. Yeah, I don't think I've actually read anything by Jack Waltz, but Fishes
Jack Waltz
is great.
and him do really good collabs with each other. They have a few good ones.
Yeah, I kind of think we shouldn't even say much more. Oh, I do want to go back and say that Eel Days
Too easy to spoil.
Eel Days is only at 89, which I think is a fucking crime.
Oh yeah,
this one's at
That's
120,
absurd.
which feels better. But all of these that we're talking about today, it's real sad that some of them aren't over 100 because they're terrific.
Eel Days is one of the takeaway articles from the entire contest. It's one of like the main articles of the contest. It's good.
I think no offense to either of you, I think it's my favorite one.
Well, yeah, no, I think it should be in the top 10. And
It's incredible.
I don't necessarily mean like I would pick one in the top 10 to kick out for it, but I mean it should have been in the top 10. It absolutely should have been.
Yeah, it's such a just warm, interesting character piece, and there's just not enough slice of life stuff, especially not in the contest. And it's just so good. Anyway,
13 indeed should not be in the top 10, but it's hilarious.
It's really good. Yeah,
it's not in the
This was
top
written,
10.
I'm pretty sure, in like a night by those.
Yeah. Fishes told me
that he wasn't going to participate.
That's right. Yeah, Fishes told me that they literally didn't start writing it until like the afternoon or the morning of the day before posting ended.
It's written as part of the CAC, not called a canon for no reason, but really is a canon. And CAC is just where you put all the complete fucking shitpost nonsense stuff. So it's a CAC entry in 7con, which is just incredible.
A lot of fun.
There seem to be a few people who decided to troll the contest. There's Grigori and Vivarium, there's Fishes and Jack Waltz, and then of course there's Calibold.
I wrote a serious article.
Yes, a serious article for serious people.
That's right.
Calibold is actually the winner of the 7,000 contest.
Oh my god! I know it got real controversial and people like fucking angry about it on Twitter, on Reddit and stuff. But I think that Your Honor, fucking League of Legends is fucking hilarious.
It wasn't my cup of tea exactly, but I very much appreciate the escapades of Calibold to a point where I very
the idea I thought was whatever. He told me about the idea and I went, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't think that's going to work. But I just like that he did something that GW talked about here when he was on, where it's just like, let me take this idea and then take it to the most logical extreme. Like, there are moments in Your Honor League of Legends that's just like, this is fucking ridiculous what's happening on the page right now.
I think the metagame that he played with it is better even than the article, because the fact that he was just mad broing it the whole time with just a big grin on his face was just the funniest thing. He was just like, they were mad bro, and he was just, I don't give a shit. And he was just, it wasn't rude about it or nasty. He was totally upbeat. He was like, look at this, I'm winning the contest. I got the biggest article. Everybody loves it. Sweet. This is Calibold and Scherf, by the way. His co-author always gets ignored when it's mentioned.
Yes.
Gotta give credit for the most hated article in the contest, where it's
Isn't it like 2 plus 300 minus 200, something like that?
Yes, its ratio is insane. But this is the thing: is it ran interference for like everybody. It was getting all the anger that would have gone to other articles.
Too.
It was the first article that got and it was getting all the shit that we would have gotten otherwise. So I mean, thank you for your service.
Yeah, it's hard to compare something like Harry's or something like mine's, where you put humor into what's supposed to be a quote-unquote serious contest, when you have your
or me
League of Legends a few spots under yours, of course. But like when you have Your Honor League of Legends kind of like magnetizing all of that away from you, it's like, okay, this is funny.
I think that
as crazy as that one.
I think if Calibold hadn't done it, I think that I would have gotten more hate on mine.
Yeah, I think he scooped a bit of that on you. For sure.
I mean, I'm glad that I didn't get a lot of hate, but like I was kind of expecting it.
Grigori was kind of hoping to get angry. He was hoping to get a little bit indignant, but
I wanted to make a splash, and I mean, being the
And
top
he
10,
did still.
it is still a splash. But like, I was kind of surprised that like the vast majority of people were positive, and I'm like, wow, this is really kind of like. I mean, I would look at this and go like, this was your KCON entry?
Grigori standing in a corner with his arms crossed, furious look on his face, like everybody likes it.
It was. I was so prepared for it to be like controversial, and it just wasn't. It was pretty funny.
I know talking to Harry throughout the contest, we were both like, all right, when's Offsite gonna get pissed at your entry?
Oh God!
And it never happened.
I was waiting to get pissed. People would be so mad that I was winning.
I think it was only
happened.
this week you got your first like negative comment. And
I
it's at
don't
plus,
even.
what, 600.
It's at plus 600 and something. I don't.
Jesus.
13 discussion pages, which is to say 130 comments passed before I got a negative comment. I don't know. It was Cal. It was all Cal. It was Cal running interference. He got all the negatives.
Someone has to do it every con.
Yep.
Rounder took it last time and he won though.
Yeah.
Well, but I took it and benefited from it at the same time. So.
To point out though the spread, how it drops precipitously. Like I just hit 200 on 7007. Like there was a lot of people that like it just dropped. That's why some of these are like. Under it's just like kind of sad, and even if it's not in the contest, I hope that people kind of take a look at some of the articles they missed during, which is the point of this episode.
It's not a totally unique thing either, though, because if you look at what you see here is 5Con if Offsite hadn't noticed 5Con. That's what we got.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because 5Con, like 5,000, swept 5,999 by about the same ratio that I beat Yassi's Heptophobia. The only difference is Tanhoney got like 200 more votes than I did.
It was
massive.
It was 290 something.
Yeah, it was at like 590 something when it won. Yeah, 5,000 won by an immense amount, but like scaled down for the attention that we got in this contest because the rest of the community didn't notice the contest happened. It's basically the same as the 5Con results.
Well, it's because yours was so long they were exhausted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm straight into it.
Thanks, man.
Sorry.
We got
You
this
did fine.
bullshit
It's
thrown-
fine.
We got that bullshit thrown at us last time in contest. Just distracted from everybody else's entries.
God, at least no one said that you were cheating. Like someone who will not be named who left a fucking comment on 6500 about how we were cheating by making something so long.
Article.
Stupid. Anyway.
Oh, good times. Were we talking about articles?
Well, yeah, we're switching up now. So we're going to talk about the article by Stormbreath and Lieutenant Flops, who are two of my favorite authors, honestly. SCP 710, We Will Endure, which is your pick, Harry. So set this one up.
Yeah. So this article is something I'm surprised to see wasn't already an article, and I'm kind of amazed. This is about the War on All Fronts canon, which is the SCP Foundation Fights Kaiju canon, which everybody enjoys because it's fantastic and fun.
Yeah.
And it's the origin story article of the canon in a sense, because one of the triggering events that makes this canon special is a giant kaiju called the Croco Squid pops up out of the fucking sea and annihilates the Fairy Island of two different things in SCP. The Fairy Island of High Brazil, and just fucking wipes it out and kills the king, and the king his son becomes a king, and blah 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 blah. Just destroys this ancient kingdom, and that's the precipitating moment for the war on all fronts against these kaiju critters, specifically the Croco Squid, to be launched. And this is the SCP of how High Brazil fell to the Croco Squid. And the premise is that High Brazil is protected. This secret island is protected by wards that prevent bad luck from accruing within the boundaries of the kingdom, the island. They're luck wards that ensure the safety and security of the island. And the premise of this article is they're failing, we're pretty sure, but the people who live in this island are so last days of Krypton that they can't see it, and anyone who can see it gets shouted down because they've come completely complacent with the safety of their lovely little island.
Wow, it is just Krypton, isn't it? Not just, but it is Krypton.
Yeah, it's totally a Krypton sort of thing. They're like, no, that can't be happening because that's never happened before. The wards will stay forever.
None of the Space Marines will ever turn against the Emperor.
Exactly. It'll all be fine. Just leave it. It'll be fine. And meanwhile, bad luck is just piling up on the edges of the island, and they're like, actually, this is visibly all going to shit. And they can't convince the people in charge, specifically the king. They can't convince the king or the majority of his court that something's going on here. And so it's a series of logs, because the Foundation is there observing this, in the person of one character who's the POV character who isn't from the island. They're watching the conversations, and you just get this increasing sense of dread where if you know anything about the canon, you already know what it's leading up to. It's not like the conclusion is foreordained. You know what's going to happen. The question is, how does it happen? Why does it happen? And this article is sort of like a long, slow burn of like, oh, come on, guys. I know you're not going to like fucking smarten up, but smarten up. And then there's the moment where Smaug comes down from the Lonely Mountain at the end, which is how I describe it in my comment, because that's what it feels like. The whole thing is leading up for, oh shit, the big awful thing shows up, and then the big awful thing shows up and does not disappoint. And it's a really fun and really like depressing, but interestingly depressing play, essentially, of these characters making these terrible decisions, and you're just sitting there shaking your head going, guys, there's a big fucking crocodile squid monster coming. Could you get your shit together?
What I really liked was Flops and Storm did really go with this, but what feels like more of a Storm Breath element is how it kind of bounces between these journal logs into the recorded conversations and meetings between people. And I really like how Storm Breath does that, and Flops as well, but what I'm reminded of is Storm Breath's recent serial killer article, where you have the very clinical description of what's going on, and then interspersed between is these testimonies from the lead detective on the murders. And it's kind of like this two separate build-ups to the same thing, where we're getting a more personal aspect and then a very clinical aspect of what's going on to really build the atmosphere on top of the actual story going on, until you get to that really like that conclusion that just punches you in the face.
Right. That's going back to what we were talking about with the Creative Corner, was the bouncing between two elements and using that to help your pacing.
Yeah,
this one's great. I mean, I like pretty much everything I've read from either of these authors, and pretty much everything that's in this canon. And this is just another good example.
Contests are always a time for War on All Fronts to shine. They got a whole extra storyline out of the Canon Renaissance contest.
Oh god, that one's
you guys know I was supposed to be on, well, I applied to be on that team when I first started out.
Aw. Who beat you? Which one of them beat you?
Shifu.
Oh.
Because Storm
gotcha.
didn't like my the one article about the snake in Italy. That is admittedly awful. But he must have read that and been
Poems
like,
of the
this guy
Basilisk?
sucks. Yeah. Which Dune refers to as Poems of the Ballsack to edge at me.
I don't know why that. I like that title. It's stuck in my head. It's been in my head this whole time, as you can tell.
I like it too. I'm planning on rewriting it for when I get my next 10 between the 75 90s.
All right, here it comes, folks. Poems of the Good Lisk.
Anyway, let's move on to SCP-7320 Serendipity by Radiger.
This was fun. I crit this one. This is one of the ones I crit.
Me too.
I love this article so
Me too.
much.
That was really good.
Radiger is the unsung hero of the SCP Wiki, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Although this article did get up to, I don't remember what it was by the end of the contest, but right now it's 165. But I honestly think it should be much higher, because she does these incredible... They're not just comedy articles, but they always have comedy attached to them. And they all she has such a variety of tones as well. Like, there's a lot of setup to this where, okay, so let's just I'll just explain what it is. So items that affected by this SCP-7000 gain the ability to measurably impact events. Also, this is a note to everybody who's had their articles moved to different slots. Go in and maybe change the SCP-7000s, maybe.
Oh yeah. While you talk, I'm going to fix this. But yeah,
nice.
It's because staff moved the articles this year and didn't correct the numbers.
Yeah, but I corrected mine.
Sad to do this.
They corrected some of them.
Well, I'm just saying
They gave up.
I corrected mine. So
Yeah.
Had all Lenny do mine.
Radiger's got a life. The rest of us don't.
Well, that's true.
I'm going to correct it while we talk. This is.
Well, this is not the only one. There's a few of these articles we're talking about. This is not to bash on Radiger. Radiger's article is fantastic.
I'm not going to fix the rest of them. I'm just fixing this one because I like Radiger.
Good. SCP items affected by SCP gain the ability to measurably impact events experienced by the user, typically altering events in the user's favor. There are two subsections. The -1s are effectively luck charms, and the -2s are anti-luck charms. A factor believed to be the source of the -2 object's potency is they are all catalog instances of foundational, like, communal objects engaged with by multiple people. And so, like, the more attention that is given to them is more likely to turn them into these -2s. The article takes a very short, kind of brief way to highlight a couple of examples of people that the items are connected with and individual items, goes into a little more detail about a couple of the items, and then ends with just the funniest O5 conversation I think I've ever read. It's ridiculous and hilarious. This is the second one, because we just did one. 13 Indeed also ended with a hilarious O5 interaction.
Those O5s, man, they're always funny in the contests.
I know.
Only
It
in
is.
contests.
It is nice when we kind of go away from the overly serious O5 conversations. She did this wonderful thing where each one of the O5's conversations is a different font, and sometimes dramatically different font and different color, and so it's really easy to follow this conversation.
Yeah.
I ran into that issue when I was writing my my entry. I found it very difficult, and that was probably the main critique I got from people I went to when I was drafting, and as I posted that it's very, very hard to differentiate out all the overseers. And I was even balancing maybe 4 or 5 of them I focused on. Mm-hmm. That is still very hard to do, to write these 5 characters that are very, like, ambiguous within the quote-unquote canon of the wiki, where you have to basically come up with these characters unless you're following something that you've already established or someone else established.
Yeah, that's what I did in the loser, is I followed placeholders' personal schema for what each one is focused on. So every line of dialogue that was going to be on a specific topic, I gave to the one who would have that line of dialogue. But even then, I used all 13 of them. And it's kind of hard to tell the difference.
Honestly, anytime we're doing one of these logs where the conversation is beyond, like, 3 people, it's kind of hard. Like, I ran into this problem at the end of 6500, where none of them were O5s, and they're all established characters, but there were still 15 people in that room. It's, and it's you really got to keep it in your head.
Perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like, of course these people are going to interject from time to time, but how do I make that feel natural? How do I differentiate the characters? And, like, this is a very smart way of doing it by not only, like, different colors is a pretty, not cliche, that's what I'm looking for, like, common thing you'll see for overseers, but, like, the different fonts really help too.
It did.
And as Harry was mentioning with, like, focusing on like a different overseers thing, when I wrote mine, I think I had the 4th overseer focusing on, like, the mobile task forces, one of them focusing on Reza, and so on and so forth. But still, then it's very, very difficult because you need to get those speech patterns down, and you might hear it in your head a certain way. Having that written down on paper, and then also expecting readers to pick up on that too, is very hard. So I think the fonts here and the color here really help with that too.
It does. And there's also a very clear sense of voice with each of them, because some of them are, like, really no nonsense, and some of them are, like, just fucking, like, absurd. Like,
some of them are no nonsense. One of them introduces the running joke that makes the article.
She had been talking about this running joke in a vague way on Twitter and in messages I had with her for, like, a month leading up to it. And I'm like, what the fuck is that thing you keep mentioning? And then I looked it up and went, why are you talking about this thing? I don't want to give it away. And now it's just like, oh, okay.
It's funny as hell.
It's funny as hell, and no offense to all of Harry's many articles that end on one-liners, I think this is one of the best one-liner endings I've read.
It has a great ending. It's a great, tight, funny article.
Yeah.
It's only 2,000 words long, and like I said, I created this, which is to say I told her it was great and gave her maybe 1 or 2 grammar corrections, because there was nothing wrong with this as far as I was concerned. It was perfect. And in return, she read my article that's 8 times longer. So that is an absolute fucking trooper right there.
I think what also helps with this article really work is that it's such and not in an insulting way, a simple idea. And I'm pretty sure I didn't read as much as maybe Harry did or other people did, you, Grigori, but I've read maybe 20 articles. This is the only one that focuses on good luck charms. It's such a simple idea, and it's so obvious. It's done in such a perfect way. Like, the Foundation has these little good luck charms, and it's not like these massive things that affect them wildly. They affect maybe one person or a small group of people. You see the ways they affect them in good ways, and then the funny ways that the bad luck charms affect them in bad ways.
Yeah.
It's done in a very straightforward way. You get the humor, you get the lightheartedness, and then ending on that overseer log is just like a linchpin that seals it all together.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really good. I will say that I think Grimsley Tudge is also talking
his
about
coin is a good luck charm.
and the other character also has one of those luck charms. But
Dr. Weddle has one too, but he loses it in the hair basically right at the beginning of the article. So I didn't want to copy Ep's entire story.
But yeah, I think this is the 3rd time I'm saying, please, I'm begging you, if you like this podcast, if you like anything that I or Harry has written, please go check out Radiger's articles and podcast.
Yep.
She has a new project out there.
YouTube videos.
She's
got the best comedic timing in videos that I've ever seen.
She's so fucking funny.
So
not
funny.
just so funny for SCP. No, just in general.
Just funny. Just legitimately funny.
Someday we will be like, knew her. Okay, so we are going to move.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. We are going to move on to SCP-7070, Amantharine. Do you know how to pronounce this, Plague?
Amaranthine.
By Jaydun and Disidron.
It means purplish magenta.
Okay.
It's a cool big word, pretty much. Surprisingly, has been used before. You want to know something nuts? The word cartoon had never been used in an SCP title until Rat King did Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network. Yeah.
Amaranthine had been used at least once before this.
That's so weird. Mm-hmm. I also think it's really funny that Amaranthine it's Dune, but it's also Disidron. This is Disidron's article. So the 6-con one was red, so we went from red to purple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a similar-ish image.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there?
Yeah, the orb in the sky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's different, but I like how this one starts with that and his 6K ended with it. They're not similar image, but I just mean
yeah.
I wonder if it's the same artist too. I don't remember. But
Steph.
Oh no, it's Steph this time. Okay.
This one, the art was done by Steph, and the other one was Devia, who also did the Demon Hector's images and Rounder Houses.
Yes,
6,000 images.
Yeah.
Anyway, the images in this article in general are fucking terrific. There aren't a lot of them, but when they come up, and it has a great sense of style in general. I really like the Oracle parts. They really feel like a nice break. But yeah, why don't you set this up, Plague?
So I was actually involved in the original collaboration of this, then I pulled away.
Cheater.
Because I just didn't feel...
Disqualified. I'm actually 9th place. Disqualified! Just kidding. Go.
I didn't have, the idea I didn't feel meshed with me well, but they really pulled it off. But yeah, I'll go through the original idea. Me and Dune we had somewhat of a little promise that we would work together, but it didn't go through. It's alright. We were really scrambling for ideas. We did not know what to do. Because we had heard hints of the 3 options the theme was gonna be from staff or little hints, but that were dropped. And so we were what the hell can we write for luck? We heard it could be fantasy. We could have, and then there was one other I can't remember. What could we write for luck? So our original idea was somewhat of like a article where this interdimensional monster keeps eating universes,
That was cool.
and then you follow kind of the Foundation as these fail-safes in these universes send the documentation over to the next universes, and the monster keeps like going, and you see the Foundation slowly trying to figure out how to kill this thing. It didn't come to fruition because we couldn't pull it off in the way we wanted to, but it was a cool idea. And then we're talking to Rounder, and he was talking about Skip now. We're like, that's a pretty solid like uncovered ground for somewhat of a lore entry.
Yeah.
And so it became this much wider thing where the Foundation is sort of overtaken in a Skynet way of SkipNet, and that's what this article is about, where Foundation sort of creates SkipNet to categorize all their articles, which it already does, but then it all slowly starts corrupting pre-existing articles and then overloading the database with fake SCP articles as the world slowly descends around them. As they can't contain it, the veil collapses, and then anomalies escape because they're running out of space for all these things that are being created.
I think it's really cool that this is like the big apocalypse one of the first bunch that I read, because there are several big apocalypse ones. This one has just, does a cold open in this ruined world that is immensely evocative. It's a really spooky, screwed up world, and to see how we got there is really good. I also love how many scary apocalypses we got from the theme of luck. Like, everybody saw luck and went, all right, dark mode, we're going to have a really dark background, and this is going to be an article about the end of the world. But this one is, I think, one of my favorites of those. It's so screwed up and weird and spooky, and it's a big world building piece. It's got some fantastic use of the format.
There's a part of it where, just the part that stuck out for me the most, we kind of get an insight to how civilians are living, and they like specify how there's a group of like people who are surviving solely off the excretions of SCP-173. I'm like, lovely. Oh my god, this place sucks. I don't want to be here.
Also, you recommended an article that has cannibalism implied twice, and I'm annoyed. I got over it.
You are annoyed. Yeah, fucking annoyed.
This is... I can't stress enough how interesting visually it is. Like, the end of the first... Not the first offset, but the first offset you go to, the first media article.
Oh, yeah,
is so fucking... I actually don't know how they did it, and it's incredible.
I tried to figure it out for them. They were having trouble, and then it took like 3 people. It went through like 3 people. It went through me, then Rounder, and then Stormbreath, who finally solved it to figure out how to do what they did. And it looks great.
It looks incredible. Like,
the very, very end of it, just before the fun little note that lets you get to the next iteration, is fucking spooky as shit. And that's the part that's so easy. Good. The part that's above it is the difficult.
Yeah, the fading
the ending
where, color, yeah.
Where the phrase appears. The cliched phrase you should not be able to make cool at this point, and they still made cool.
And this is the second time Dissidron has done it. Yeah. Because 6K does the Red Moon.
Yes.
Fuck, so good. How dare you?
Man, it's amazing you can even hear for all the moons how...
I do want to ask them if they are fans of... what's that fucking fake TV channel? It's on YouTube.
Oh, yes. Local
58. It's the Chris Straub thing. Because there is a whole plot about the moon in that. Not that this is... I'm not trying to imply. I just mean... it gave me the similar kind of vibes. For sure. Only it goes beyond that because it actually explores what the world would be like after it goes to shit. And I think it's really funny because the first part of it kind of implies from Oracle, which is this AI that's kind of helping the O5, who's sort of the protagonist of this, navigate these files, implies, I think, says, let's see, how does she phrase it? Oracle says, I duty inform you the file you are about to read a file predating the Black Moon incident. As such, information contained within may be inaccurate. Philosophies and behavior predating the Howling may be seen as immoral today. And what I thought that was going to imply is now we're in a foundation that is more not wholesome, but like it looks back at its past in a negative way, in the past of its actions in a negative way. But in the future, where the Foundation is trying to fix, human society, and 2000 is not an option, I don't know if they are. They're doing horrible shit.
I feel like that note actually, it's meant to make you think that's what it is, and then when you read it, you're actually like, oh, this is like people living in a wasteland looking at a story about people showering and water.
Right.
That's immoral. You're wasting all that water. That's what it is.
Such a brilliant fucking fake out. It's so good.
It's great.
The best part is that like I feel like I know what, even though there's just the one image, from the descriptions and from the dialogue, I feel like I can imagine what the world looks like with this.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, oh, God.
Yeah, Dune sent me the opening introduction.
Oh, yeah.
And I read that. I'm like, yeah, I can picture this. This is good.
I'm going to admit that my first inclination seeing it and being like, you're opening with dialogue? Really? Like, I was like, and then I just got into it because it's so fucking well written.
Yep.
And it does such a good job of setting tone and everything else. It's awesome. And that's 2 from Distrodron. Now Distrodron needs to do something that's really green or blue. I don't know.
Yeah, pick a calming color for Christ's sake.
Distrodron is so fucking special.
SCP-8000 Viridian.
Distrodron comes up with these ideas that on their face are just like the fucking the serial killer ones. If you just boil them down to the 2-sentence things, you'll be like, really? That's a compelling story? No, read it. It does something completely different and unique. The second one too, the sequel. Oh yeah, both of them. And he did it twice.
Cliche idea, and then made it unique twice.
Distrodron's execution is always just.
It's incredible. I think Distrodron maybe is like a genius.
And also comes up with fantastic ideas for other people and just throws them out there as well.
Right.
Just an all-around cool person.
Yep.
I think there's also a testament to Dune's writing as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Dune is like somewhat rightfully and also somewhat wrongfully known for being the funny guy along with me. He has a very good way of pivoting towards a very somber, sad, bleak tone that shines in 6003 Beacon, shines in his one more meta article he wrote.
Death of the Author?
The Author, yeah.
That was the one I was just getting ready to look that up, yeah.
Really, really good at switching to that tone and doing it in a way that you really wouldn't expect from an author who's more known to be writing a lighthearted comedy in that genre on the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dune is perennially underrated by Dune. Dune is constantly talking about, I don't feel like I did a good job on this, and I feel Death of the Creator, that's what it is, SCP-5466, that's the one. He just constantly I don't know if I got to where I was trying to get with that or whatever. It's like, you're fucking phenomenal. Shut up, man. You're so good at this.
He really is.
I think that's something to some extent most creative go through. I sympathize a lot with the thought process of until you or somebody else reads it and tells me, no, this works. It's why I habitually send you little segments. I'm like, is this stupid? Am I fucking up my own ass or does this work? It's hard to. The other option is to be so sure of yourself that nothing you do could ever do wrong, and we've seen how that works on the wiki.
Yeah, that doesn't work out so well.
Anyway, this is great, and even though it is one of those kind of pretty long articles, it's really, really quite brilliant. The pacing is really done in an interesting way because it changes tone dramatically halfway through, and in a way that feels perfectly natural.
Absolutely.
And it sets up a really compelling, weird thing that we'll probably never see again, but I would be interested in seeing other stuff in this setting.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Harry, you recommended SCP-7776, The Unwell by Dr. Balthazar.
By Dr. Balthazar. We're now moving into the metaphysician couplet of the ending of the section here. Yes. The Unwell by Dr. Balthazar. Balth wrote The Rainbow Serpent in the last contest, which was also one of my favorites. A nice, extremely long and detailed story of a kaiju just furiously annihilating the world, which I think was my pick for our KCON 6000
it was.
articles. And here I am picking Balth again. This is one of the longer articles in the contest. It's a very long and detailed and complex story about how much it sucks to work at Site 93. Site 93 is located near a village which has a well, and the well has something in it. And the something in the well, according to the people who live around the well, is a portal to an alternate dimension or a space between spaces that has some really horrible thing living in it that wants to come out. But every once in a while they are periodically given rituals in their dreams that will propitiate whatever the thing is and keep it in its hole and keep it from coming out. And they are always extraordinarily unpleasant rituals that they don't want to do that result in mutilation and harm and all kinds of horrible stuff, and are borderline sadistic or beyond the border, well beyond the border of sadistic. But they have to keep doing it to keep the thing in there. But that's the way it is set up now. The site is set up there, it's hived off from the rest of the Foundation, and anybody who's there is stuck there, and they work always to keep this anomaly contained. But we also see access to the original versions of the containment procedures, which are, we don't know what this fucking thing is, but the locals think there's a well full of weird shit. Make sure you stop all these rituals, because these rituals are obviously bullshit. And that gets changed to, no, these rituals aren't bullshit. Absolutely, they're not bullshit. Absolutely, keep doing the rituals. And reading the article, we find out why, because, I mean, spoiler alert, there is a horrible thing in the well that's trying to get out, and it is so horrible, because that's the beauty of this article. It's a very, very slow burn, detailing how much it sucks to be on this island, how much horrible shit happens to these people, an absolute litany of the ridiculously unpleasant things that happen to everybody here. I'll just read just one tiny one. Agent James Gilmore reported that the water in his canteen had been converted to blood. Testing showed that the blood belonged to Agent Gilmore. This is the shit you deal with just working next to this fucking well.
God.
Completely horrible random crap happening all of the time, much of it body horror related. And then we eventually find out why they're doing all of this in an extended log where we see what happened when the Foundation didn't contain the anomaly by not doing the rituals. And what happened was extraordinarily ridiculous, horrible cosmic horror on a massive scale. And it's very metaphysician in my opinion, as is the next article we're going to look at. It's cosmic horror, and it's very well done.
It's a pretty, like, a consistent theme of Balthazar's, especially his KCON entries throughout, because he did 5K, 6K, and 7K, and all of them kind of focus around Foundation trying to contain something that A, should not exist, and B, will fuck their shit up if they do not contain it right.
Yeah.
Especially, what was his 5K? Was
The beast of something? Or
Beast of something.
I could be wrong. Sorry.
Let's see. What was Balls? Bass Strait.
That's straight. I really like that one. That's one of my,
5007.
yeah. It's a really good article. And that it has a very, well, they all have very similar vibes. That one feels very similar to that because it ends in a similar way where this thing comes out and just ruins everything. And the Foundation's like, okay, we're not going to try and contain this. We're just going to do our best to make sure it does not get out again.
Right. Yeah, every time there's a KCON, Balth actually comes out with something that is just giant and epic. He's very, very consistent in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
This one also has a good use of tables I really like. Where it's just like detailing the awful things going on to these people.
Yes.
And just what this anomaly is ruining. Like you go, transfiguration, wildlife, psychological, psychological, psychological. It's just like, oh my god, these people and these animals, the trees are being tortured.
Yep, it's a nightmare job, and I think the way he piles on that just awful mess of all the shit that happens because there are people here, the shit that happens to these people all of the time, just leads up to the question of like, why are they putting up with this? And the answer is because if they don't put up with it, it's a lot worse, which is how it earns that conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great piece of horror. It's a good, slow burning piece of deep unpleasantness. And it's one of the articles that I hear people very frequently saying, like, why is this not higher in the contest rankings. I've seen a lot of people in SCPD just like, read The Unwell, come on! And it does require a bit of your time to read. It's one of the longer ones, but it's also really evocative.
Yeah, but it's not like so long that, I mean, like I read it.
No,
it was
it's not the longest by far.
20, 30 minutes, you know?
Probably shorter than mine watched. Probably shorter than most of them.
Yeah, it's really something special. Honestly, the thing that I like about it the most is that it feels like a modern article, but it looks like a fairly older article in a good way. And some really fun images. Sure. Some really fun images.
This was a weird article for me to read, not in like that the writing was weird. Just like I was reading through this and it was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do with Beacon. And it's just like
it is like
pull that off as well. I know I doing an Crow, I'll rag on Beacon, and we always get told, it's fine, it's good. We don't like that one, but this was
nobody says
shut the fuck up, man. I fucking love that article.
People love it. I don't like it too much.
Too bad.
We're planning to like not fully rewrite it, but just go through and get rid of some more of the problem areas. But this is exactly what I wanted to do. Just have a group of people be kind of like tortured, trying to contain something they don't fully understand until finally you get to see what's inside of it.
God, I really can't think of a single fucking part of Beacon I would think you should cut. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Not cutting, it's just more like...
Oh.
It's very melodramatic. Dialogue, like, go...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
you know...
that addendum with, where one of the characters, I think her first name is Rosa, wants to leave. Read that log and tell me that it's not melodrama.
I don't think it's melodrama to a fault, but I can see what you're saying. If you want to ground the dialogue, there's nothing wrong with that. Just stop bashing it. I really like it.
There's something funny about that, Beacon. Realized there was a very major plot hole in it only until I listened to the Exploring series video on it.
What was the plot hole?
Because there are apparently, if you know the story beats, there is a set of boxes, stone boxes that the Foundation looks into, and it kind of like reveals what happened to the group of people that used to live on this island. As it turns out, we accidentally wrote that there were 2 sets of boxes.
Hey, I told you that in Crit.
Different areas. I thought we got that.
I told you that in Crit.
I thought we got it. But apparently, we were so... It took us like 3 tries to get every date lined up.
No, it's fair.
This was 6con. This was 6con. Wikidot was falling apart. You might have made the edit.
Not even that. We had a Google Doc. It took us 3 tries to get every date lined up because me, Crow, and Dune were using different formats for the dates. So we were just like,
I fucking remember that.
Is this March 12th or is this December 3rd?
I remember that.
It was like the big issue, and then I had written out like I write my dates like written out like September 13th, 2000, whatever. But I had that. Crow had the like European way to write a date, and then Dune did the American way to write a date. So we were all worried about that, and that took us 3 or 4 passes to get through, and I think it just got lost, where we had this major plot hole none of us realized because we just didn't catch it, and we didn't fix whatever crit we
That
did.
is so... That's why I asked you. Sorry, because I was like, I remember telling you about that when I couldn't.
I
remember.
Why are there 2 sets of boxes? You're like, oh shit, there are.
I remember shit like that too, because I remember seeing differences in punctuation choices between the sections and going, I can tell who wrote what, and that was all smoothed out by the end.
So just cheat like we did in 6500, and it's
all right individually.
All of them were just totally individual.
Almost every single iteration in that that SCP is written by one person.
Anyway, all right.
Each, not like one person wrote them all.
Yes, God no.
No.
So
one more.
But let's go. SCP-7900, which is by It's a Bad Idea, or Itzabi. And the title is A Place to Drown In.
Oh, this is such a good one. This is another top 10.
So good.
I don't understand how it is at only 110.
It's obscene.
This is a fucking terrific article. It's why I saved it for last selfishly.
Fucking things. It's one of the spookiest articles on the
is.
site.
I'm just
Atmosphere.
Oh my god, the atmosphere is amazing.
It's so atmospheric. It's so good.
SCP-7900 is Notre Dame de la Mer, a monastery founded in 1208 CE and the center of numerous anomalous phenomena. The anomaly lies 7 kilometers off the coast of Normandy, France, on a rocky islet surrounded by deep waters. A lot of the beginning is just setting up what this island is like, and what the monastery is like, and then what these tunnels are like that are under it, which is so great because you've got this rich history of this monastery that's kind of weird that it's out in the middle of nowhere, and the first image is so good. It's like, I don't know if it's from the 1940s or 20s, but it looks like it's this like 100-year-old photograph, and it's just bleak and just like these high cliffs and these roaring waves. And then you find out that beneath the anomaly lies an expansive network of tunnels constructed at an unknown date in its history. The network was discovered during archaeological digs around the base of the islet. The tunnels have yet to be fully explored, but survey teams have mapped over 150 kilometers to date. Estimates place the size of the network between 6,000 to 1,000 kilometers, which is nuts. It's a tiny island.
Shit. What? That's a lot.
Much of the network appears to be naturally occurring, but significant portions have been reinforced with intricate and advanced architecture. The network possesses, and this already, that's like, oh, this is some good Lovecraft shit right here, and like, without the racism. And already I'm like, oh, what's going to be found down there? And then the next paragraph kind of sets everything up so beautifully. The network possesses an anomalous effect that causes individuals to have a higher than average likelihood of becoming lost within the tunnels, even when using advanced navigation equipment. Rescue personnel consistently report becoming lost through non-anomalous means, such as equipment malfunction, disorientation, or unstable geologic activity. But repeated incidents suggest anomalous interference. So they can't even figure out what the anomaly is. They just know people keep getting lost down here, and it's not a coincidence.
Yep.
But the coolest part about it is there's all this clinical and historical documents, and then we get a few of the first-hand accounts from people that have gotten lost. And I'm not going to read all of them, or even all of the ones I had, but here's a segment from the first one where we see ripples in the water, and I tell Urchik to go and get Tanner. He runs off, tail between his legs, but I didn't. I wasn't scared. No. Why should I be? It only wanted to save my soul. Because the whole time leading up to that... Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good.
Oh, just the whole time leading up to that, in that log, it's just building tension. Like, it's just like, oh, this is a deep, scary place. And then the last line is, wait, what? What? Save your soul? What are you talking about?
Yeah, that doesn't match with the tone of what's
going on. What's going on? But what were you going to say, Blake?
It's one of those things where I love this style of writing, and I know Fusehead does it very well, where you get presented with a very weird thing, and it's just left there and not explained.
Yes.
Because this is a very clinical document, like you mentioned. We get how many paragraphs? Probably 20 or so paragraphs before we get to this entry.
Yeah.
And then it's
short
just left with this guy clearly being affected by something. And then it's just left there. You have to be like, what?
Yeah, there's no commentary from the researcher organizing this file on the fact that this person just said, there was something in the water scary enough that made one of them run, and I think it's there to save my soul. Hey, researcher, maybe pay attention to that.
Maybe look at all these people getting religious rapture about the water and the caves, and maybe treat that seriously.
Along with how, like, they don't designate the, the sub-anomaly in there as, like, a -1. They call it a gray apostle, and that's not explained either. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
it's so weird.
The implication that there's a certain amount of effect happening to everybody who has documented this thing, whether they're all a little compromised, is great.
Like
it's like a horror version of the People's Church of the Fish that goes on forever.
Yes, because there's gradations to it, right? The people that have actually experienced it firsthand are like, I don't know if they're fully converted with big air quotes on them. But the people that are just doing the documentation, you're right, they're also getting affected because they are not calling out these weird things. There is no moment where there's a footnote saying, this is strange. Nope. You're just left with the sense of like, oh, are we just going to leave that there? Okay. It's just incredible. Like, then I locked eyes with an angel. Like, what? You did what now? And there's like this really brilliant descriptions of this. I personally am fairly, I wouldn't say scared, but like uncomfortable with the idea of like flooding caves.
I love it. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
One thing that really bothers me, and I love it.
I really works for me, and consistently there's a sense of building tension to where this is something horrible is going to happen. At some point, I understand they're subverting the expectations, but it's all going to build up to that something horrible, and it doesn't really happen. The horrible thing is unspoken. It's behind. It's kind of between the lines that, no, the horrible thing is, listen, if you came here, you too would also like a place to drown. And it's like, fuck.
And the fact that it doesn't end doesn't mean it isn't going to end too. That's
yes.
It's the horror of the incomplete nature of it, because it's not that nothing happens, it's that something is about to happen and it hasn't by the time the article has been posted. So there's the horror of like, this isn't done. This is about to get worse. It's just starting to get worse when it's over. It's worse after I've finished reading this article.
That's right. This is only like the very beginning of what's happening. And it all, in the same way, like Plague, you were just saying, putting something weird out there and just leaving it. The whole article is like that because they're establishing this weird thing and there's no conclusion. There's no payoff. The payoff is, oh, fuck.
The payoff is brilliant because it's something that I love to do, but it's doing it in a different way. It ends in a horror one-liner.
Yeah,
perfect, immaculate horror one-liner.
And I don't want to give the ending away, but I did want to read one portion of one of the other logs. I don't remember everything I saw down there. It was like a dream. I can't recall the details, but I'll never forget the faces. Horrible, mummified, scared. Millions of them, starving to death in that pit. Nothing to eat after the apostles died and the drowning stopped. I see the faces of the devotees given new life and new blood from the water. I saw Nago in the bliss of her newfound immortality. I saw my team screaming as they accepted God's blessing. I saw Rick and Tanner and Urchek. I saw myself from a distance. But most vividly, I saw God, my God, watching from above through the cracks in the rock, a whale's eye, blue as sapphire, and I let his song cleanse and birth me new. He has hopes for us, inheritors of his capital deluge. It's been so long since he's seen the surface. I can't wait.
The rapture, the completely inappropriate rapture is so good.
Even within that portion I just read, it starts off going, oh, it's so terrible. And then within that paragraph, oh, no, that's where right there in that sentence is where that person got converted.
The whole thing is so well done with how they're all slowly coming around to how great this clearly terrible, awful, definitely bad thing is. And it's right from the start. The monastery is called Notre Dame de la Mer, Our Lady of the Sea.
Right, yeah.
It's claiming this horrible, horrible thing for us.
Yeah, the thing that I like the most is how this is clearly informed by stuff that Metaphysician and before him other Eldritch writers have done, where there's an unknowable alien thing that is creating religious fervor. And the fun thing is that the tone never quite admits to you this is a bad thing. The tone is a deep religious awe in the way that we might think of something having a truly religious moment. The tone of these individual peoples and the article in general, even at its conclusion, feels like someone having an epiphany in the traditional sense of that word.
Absolutely.
And it's I'm like angry that this is only at 110.
It's one of the top 10 in the contest. Easy. It's so good.
And speaking of images, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, they're so well chosen.
5, and they're just mostly pictures of caves, and they're all upsetting. The last one especially. Out. Yes. Yeah, they're so
washed out. Yes. They look gross. They look wet, dirty, and it's just like
and cold.
So much.
Like I feel like the frigid temperature of these waters coming off of it. Ugh.
They're cold. Yeah, they're visibly cold, even though they're black and white or sepia. It's incredible.
Like you could just feel like how bleak and how like tired and upset you would be if you got lost in there and weren't in danger of dying, just trying to figure your way back, and how vulnerable that would make you to like a feeling of wanting to be saved. It's oh fuck,
Boys, I can't wait. I'm going.
it's so good. It's been so long since he's seen the surface. I can't wait. Oh
Definitely a classic, an all-time
yeah.
classic.
So that is SCP-7900, and like just please go read it. It's incredible, and we didn't give away like any of the really good stuff because it's just that amazing.
Blake?
Sabi has one of my favorite articles on the site. I think I generally believe it's a bad idea as one of those underrated authors on the website.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like criminally underrated.
Yeah, criminally. They only have a few articles. But what they've written, especially their solo work, is so good. Like one of my favorite articles on the site ever is Hornbelt, which they wrote for what was it? It was the corpse contest. This was a corpse contest. It's an explained thaw meal, I think. Something like that. Or no, it's a I think it's explained thaw meal. It's some wacky containment procedure class. And he pulls it off in a way that is so well done. And then you could go read that, and then go read this, and it would feel like it's a completely different author.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't see like a through line between Asabi's articles other than quality. Like they're super well done, but they're all so different, which is a real talent.
Really.
Even
I wish Asabi would write more.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Even I would say to the design of this article emphasizes the bleakness of the pictures.
Yeah.
It's all mostly white and gray, and yet
it's really good choices.
Yeah, it's not like just because like it fit.
Right, there's reasons. There's intentionality in all the choices that were made in this piece. To make it more
I just cannot stop talking. I'm just so glad we did this episode so I could just talk about this article for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I know.
All right, we got a lot of emails, so let's do that. At the end, we're going to throw out some honorable mentions.
Yes, open up the contest page so that at the end, once we've done the emails, you can just quickly scroll and throw out the names of the ones.
My honorable mentions.
You've got yours, and I'll throw out some, and Blake can if he wants.
Okay, but we're going to see some emails. I'm going to read this first one because it is one I missed last time for the Chaos Insurgency episode. I know. It's from Boris. Hi, creative people. On the topic of Chaos Insurgency, I really like the two articles in which they are used, but neither of them are directly about the organization. One of which is Tenhoney's I Buried the Sun, which obviously we covered. And the other is the MTF Sigma 66 Post-Mission Psychological Evaluation by Silver Escher. I mean, God, anything Silver Escher does is great. Here, a former CIA operative is working for the Foundation's quote-unquote Suicide Squad, MTF, and is very entertaining on account of his brain being scrambled. You're never sure if he just pretends to be eternally confused, or if it's just what is working for the CI does for you.
Just like talking to Greba gang leader.
And then Boris included something that's really kind of fun. I recently heard the Victim episode and had a vision. It follows the trajectory of older GOIs. You could leave the wiki and come back 10 years later and still find it in use. It will have 3 competing and contradictory interpretations, each with detailed ideas about its founders, goals, and functions. Fuck that. Someone writes a straight story about just a weird, creepy piece of media, and it gets downvoted to oblivion with one comment saying, you need to put some actual story in it. It's not a Series 1 anymore. At this point, Series 1 is everything before SCP-10,000. This is really fun. Plague, you want to read this one from Jim Bob?
Yep. Hello, Simply Creative people. It's me, Jim Bob. I'm here with my 3 favorite entries for 7KCon that aren't in the top 10 in no particular order. Samsara, which is by Afto Creator. It's written very well, and it's pretty funny at moments. And then SCP-7666, Under Vegas Orientation, The House Loses by Rounderhouse. Very well written, and a humorous article that I enjoyed.
That's great.
And then SCP-7043, Murphy Law in The Montauk Falcon. A very nice bit of action, hard-boiled Murphy, and writing very enjoyable in my opinion.
Who wrote that one?
That's Quasiquafter.
Oh, nice.
That's a fun name to say. I like that name.
Yeah, Murphy Law. I mean, I'm pissed I didn't read it. I love Murphy Law.
So it's a long one too.
It's a very big one.
It is long. But I got maybe a quarter of the way through. It was pretty solid. Around Their House's entry, I really, really like.
And that's the other thing. It seems like a dumbass thing to say, especially since he won 6,000. But Rounders is way underrated. It's so much fun from start to finish. It's a beautiful article, and I love it. It's so funny that I gave him like 60 different comments in my line by line where I was just saying, this joke was amazing.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Really, really fun.
I like that a lot of us like went the opposite direction from what we did for 6K.
Yes.
Rounder and you and I and Plague, you did too. I think it's really kind of, it's just like, well, I did that last time. Let's do something else.
Yeah, there's not a lot of let's just do what we did the last time for sure.
Yeah. Harry, you want to read this one from JTKC, which John, I cut this down. So
Okay.
it was quite long. So if you're listening and you go, why wasn't my whole email? Yeah, I cut some of it.
So this is the Grigori edit of JTKC's email. Hey guys, love the last episode and official congrats to Mr. 7000. I don't know who that is.
Weddle.
Probably It's Weddle. It's Weddle. 7K has been a special one for me because it's the first one I've participated in and the first one where I tried to read every entry, and I did try as well. Unfortunately, that didn't work out very well because of work. Never work for the army, kids. It's not fun. I'll try and get through them over the next few days. Me either. For the entries I'm suggesting, I'm going to try and keep it out of the top 15 because you guys are probably going to cover anyway. Well, actually. SCP-7711 Alone by Agarisu. I'm probably a bit biased since I had a hand in critting this one, but this one is just straight bleak. It's about how humanity is lucky to be alive in the grand expanse of space. I really like this one, with the enjoyment of space travel being sucked out of the protagonist as it goes on. Agarisu also includes an audio recording of the whole thing, since it's mostly monologue from a Jaded 05. I like when people go the extra step beyond, yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that out. That's cool.
SCP-7011 Micromanagement by Lan2D. I actually love this one too. This is a really good one. I genuinely think this one is one of the more underrated ones, at least deserve more than plus 100. I agree. The simple premise of a town which has every action extremely predictable via AI spins into a downward spiral. This one was kind of like almost like an admonition kind of crazy fucking thing. It was really, really good. I really liked it. I'm going to read this the way it's written because it's funnier that way, even though it was a mistake. SCP-SCP-7015, Mangaka in the High Castle, Melancholy of the Rising Sun by Veralta and THD Glasses. This one's far from perfect, but goddammit, I love it so much. As an SEA resident, the history of Imperial Japan is such an interesting angle for an alt history, especially since my country was once a Japanese-occupied state.
What is SEE? SEA.
Southeast Asian, yeah, there you go.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Now, I swear I know which one Jake...
Well, let's not. I mean, he didn't include it, so...
All right, yes. Well, carry on. You can read the next email then.
Crocat. Hello, everyone. Crocat here. 7Con was great. So many awesome entries were written, and the overall atmosphere of the contest just felt relaxed and fun. For poo. This was also the first contest since 3K that I was around to watch as it was going on, reading the entries as they were posted. This is also the first time I participated on the site, and I'm really happy about it. There were also a lot of entries that interpreted the theme in unexpected ways. I will say, this is my commentary, I will say that the interpretations of this theme were probably some of the most original I've seen out of a KCON.
Yep.
There's some really brilliant ideas of how they could make it work for luck. I'm really impressed with it. Anyway.
And end up with 20 trees in them.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Exactly.
There's no fucking trees this time.
I mean, sure, there were plenty of articles about dice and luck gods, but I feel the majority took a less traditional approach, and even then, some of the luck god, dice, and coin flip stories were super creative. Yeah, one of the coin flips are terrific. There were definitely some wonderful entries that were a bit overlooked, which I suppose comes with having so many of them. My favorite outside the top 10 are 7711, which we just covered, 7011, which we just covered, SCP-7222, Pool Boy by Tayuman, a lovely article. Oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah, that one's
a lovely article.
I almost included that. One's very cute.
A lovely article about a little robot who just wants to help clean. And then SCP-7030, who's one of my favorite authors, Weizong, What Comes to Pass. Such a beautiful story about a quiet apocalypse. Just incredible. I think Weizong is has some really popular articles, but in general, super missed out on. Pretty much every time Weizong puts something on there, I drop everything to read it. Anyway.
Weizong is awesome.
Plague, you want to read this one from Gwari?
Mm-hmm. From who?
Gwari?
Gwari. 7KCon has been the first XKCon that I I've seen since my entry into the community last year, and it's been honestly amazing. I've read some 50 articles of the 120 that there were, and I loved many of them. I already brought up some entries which I really liked that were relatively unnoticed in a Twitter thread I made a while ago, so I will comment about a few different ones here. First is 7011 Micromanagement, a story about determinism and fate written by a friend of mine, Land2D, who recently started writing for the wiki, as he had previously done so only on the Wanderer's Library. Then comes SCP-7755, a hole dug with a rabbit's foot, a very bizarre story about the Foundation investigating an extraterrestrial anomaly that relates to the rabbit population of Cape Canaveral, written by Crowcat. SCP-7077, Where the Sky Meets the Sea, a character exploration that makes use of a honestly beautiful imagery throughout. I really like 7077.
Yep.
That was Eleni and Dodo.
That's a good one.
And finally, SCP-7153, I'll Tell You Anything, which is just hilarious, by Anonymous, who we don't know. Definitely don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Before closing this comment off, I'd like to congratulate you all three of you for your positions in the contest. You've all done amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will get this one from Gizma. Actually, Harry, why don't you read this one from Gizma? I'll read the last one.
Okay. While we're at it, we did just get which one Crowcat's was, but JTKC's one is SCP-7447, Alfredo with a side of quantum entanglement, which is a great title.
That is terrific.
Yes. Credit where credit is due. So I'm doing Gizma?
Yeah.
Gizma. Greetings from Gizma. Again, very consistent.
I know.
Congrats to Harry for winning SCP-7000, yes. And congrats to Grigori and Vivarium for winning 10th place with Misfortune Gorge, which is also super good. And
Thank you.
Presumably because we didn't announce our co-host, Plague is not congratulated.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Plague.
Yeah, whatever.
Screw you for getting 6th place. This 7-Kikon was a lot. It sure was. I initially thought I would read all the entries, but that foolish idea was soon crushed by the fact that, holy crap, there were like 150 of them. This actually reads like a Radiger video.
It does.
Still read a bunch of them, though, and endeavored to create memes for all the ones I wanted to share and promote. Yes, big thanks to Gesma for the fucking memes. They were very helpful.
Yeah.
Lord did a whole bunch as well, but Gesma did a whole bunch. Lots of memes in the contest.
Just
Lots
thank
of
you to
fun.
Gizma for all the
Thank
memes.
you to Gesma for everything. Thanks
just-
to get all the fish.
And contributing to...
stalking dank memes from Site 19. They were killing it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Gizma is like straight up a meme genius. It's crazy. I'm gonna post one in the chat just like because I like it so much. But you keep talking.
It also lasted for much longer than I expected. Yeah, no shit. Sure wasn't the best time to post tales. Yeah. Some personal highlights. The absolute grip Rounderhouse had on me from the moment he wrote the words, a tall, muscular female demon. Agent Calendar was very popular. That whole article was
Very
a lot of fun. I
transparent.
loved it. Yes. The VKTM ads in Misfortune Gorge, they were so good. The drawings...
And they were
in
so
Meet Me in
good.
The Stars. They were so good. The drawings in Meet Me in the Stars, which is Fabled Tiefling, is also excellent. Story was excellent, but look how adorable. Yes. Weddle's blurry, partially obscured fail compilations. Yes, thank you. Asuka Evangelion bending the Hector beam into evil magic Bigfoot's face. I don't remember
great.
which one. Which
I
one
don't
is
know.
that?
Allison's.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the over-the-top description actually managed to be more over-the-top than the already over-the-top fight. That's Ralston's.
So good. I love
That
that
one's
fight.
This like giant superhero fight it ends with the
I
big,
know. When I read it, I was like, holy shit, dude. You just went from 0 to 100.
Dude. Almost forgetting to breathe while reading the logs in Hungry Season. That's
Yeah.
a big slap in my face. The sheer audacity of your Honor League of Legends.
Boom!
The bleak dystopia of Amaranthine. Questions time. How soon do you think we'll reach 8K? In a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Grigori.
hope that it doesn't take 2 months again and the theme, and that they don't chicken out of the fantasy theme.
Oh, that'd be nice. Do you think the loser being the first X-1000 to belong to a canon will have a big impact on the site? No.
I think it might.
I think so
talked
too.
about this. I talked about this to Harry. Not exactly in a very canon way where it's gonna like impact the canon and make it like people want to participate in it. I think what's gonna happen is people are gonna use the Site 43 CSS, similar to how new authors use ACS in a way. They think it like
Cruise control
brings
for
in
cool.
upvotes.
I also think it. I want to give it serious credit for being the first serious canon representative KCON,
definitely.
because I think it broke the spell that people have had where, KCON has to completely stand on its own. Which I will say, the loser does stand on its own. You would never have needed to read anything else by you to make
that was
sense of
the
reading.
main goal.
And you succeeded there. But if you happen to have been interested in the characters that were mentioned, who are perfectly independent and work well in that article, there's like all this other stuff, and it works out really, really well. And I think that opens up. I hope that it opens up people to realize that, hey, we could do, a war on all fronts and make that be the KCON, or just to get like people more interested in cannons in general, because I fucking love cannons.
I'm really glad that was broken through. I'm really happy.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I'm happy you won, Harry, but I'm happy like with the precedent sense where like people like build off existing lore in a way that doesn't, like.
Oh god, that's really exciting to hear, guys, because like I'm oppressor class in literally every single possible demographic, and I just got to break a glass ceiling somehow.
That's funny.
Lucky
anyway,
me.
Let's get this
Speaking
last
of last question, what's one of the luckiest things that's ever happened to you? SCP.
I don't.
That's my answer. Go on.
I don't know.
Mine is the time that I didn't drown and die.
Oh yes, you told
I told this story. I don't know if you heard it, Grigori.
No, I don't think so.
When I was like 7 or 8 years old, I was I'm in my condo right now, but my condo complex has like a pool. And one of the ladders of the pool, like I'm pretty sure this is a pretty consistent thing with pool ladders, is that it's not attached to the wall inside the pool. So you could kind of pull it out a little.
Oh, yeah.
And the metal on the bottom kind of curves in and has a rubber stopper on it. That's about like a hockey puck size.
Yeah.
I was like fucking around on the ladder, like using it to pull myself up and down in the water.
Sure.
And the inside of my shorts got stuck on the rubber stopper, and I didn't have goggles on, so I couldn't pull myself out. And I was trying to. And so like I start panicking, splashing, and I'm like at that point I'm like pretty sure I'm dead at like 8 years old. So eventually it gets to a point where my thrashing causes my pants to like unvelcro, untie, whatever. And so I kind of like rip out of them and fly up. And so I'm just chilling there with my shorts off of me, naked in a pool, as I try to free my shorts. And so I get out of my pool and I go to my mom, and somehow I must have miscommunicated the story because it got turned into a thing where I had managed to calm myself down enough to untie my pants and save my life.
You got credit you didn't deserve, and that's the luckiest thing that ever happened.
It's pretty cool. I put it into my newest article in a way.
You did. It works.
Yeah, I don't know what the luckiest thing that ever happened to me is. I don't know.
All of us were the luckiest thing.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. But we're going to move on. Real Surreal Sir wrote this last article, email, which is, since I have 2 questions this time, you humor me. Don't worry, they're short. I won't fill up space with thoughts on last week's episode beyond the basics. Quite interesting, good discussion, very chaos, etc. Anyway, how many different active concepts or ideas do you tend to have and work on at a given time?
About half a dozen.
It depends. I have probably like 20 drafts that I've written and not touched, but it goes through a thing where I'll write something out and just kind of leave it, and then come back to it when I'm feeling up to it. So it depends. Active, I guess I kind of write something, and if I like it a lot, I'll post it. If I don't like it, or I don't have something fully thought out, I'll just leave it until I finally do, or get bored enough to work on it again.
I used to have just the one at any given time, but because of limitations of time and promises to do this or that or help with this project, there are a few things that I have that are unfinished right now, which is annoying. I always have in the back of my mind a possibility of like 6 different articles I could write, 6 to 10. Like right now I have like 10 different articles in idea form. But currently I'm working on polishing 3 drafts. One for a big project, one that is just my series thing, and more stuff for Vanguard. But I usually have at least one victim thing at any given time, one vanguard thing at any given time, and then something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, this question is just for Harry.
Yay!
Harry, since you used a bunch of photos for SCP-7000, especially for Weddle, what would you guess the chances are the photograph/subject used for Weddle's likenesses ever discovers his face as a second life as a luckless anti-hero on a particularly weird corner of the internet?
This is the weird thing.
Yeah, I know. This is why.
What?
Just like, if you don't bring up what I think you're going to bring up, I will afterwards. Go ahead.
Yes, this is the weird thing about CC images is that you never really know what people are going to do with the images, and you don't actually have the right to be told specifically. Like, you can ask people to tell you, but they don't have to, because that's not how it works, which means people could be using your images for goddamn near anything, and sometimes they do find out, and sometimes they're not happy, and if you feel like being a nice person, you can then just take their picture down, because there's no reason to use someone's likeness if they don't like it. Somebody actually, I think, may have told this guy about it and then took back their telling this guy about it, so the guy might not have actually seen it. But if he does see it and he doesn't like it, I would change it. But I would like to imagine that once you get over the shock of finding out you've been labeled the loser, you would find out that it's actually a story about somebody who, deep down inside, tried to do a good thing for other people and has been bearing a burden for it for a long time, and hopefully that would feel nice to have had your face applied to someone who is not as much of a schmuck as he initially appears to be. And what were you going to say, Grigori?
The woman in the incinerator.
Yeah, the original Dr. Ilse Renders from SCP-5616.
That's such a funny story.
Like, we don't have to go into like details about it, but that person found out and asked politely, no. Threatened legal action? Yeah, like they actually hilariously, and I wish somebody had asked me, I would have been like, you don't have any fucking legal right to this. But whatever.
But like the nice thing to do is to go, take it down, which is what I did.
Yeah, of course.
And then replaced it with somebody whose photographs of themselves include them wearing a Creative Commons shirt, so they know what's up.
But that's I mean, it does happen. I mean, I've had to replace images a bunch of times. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it works when we're getting free images off the internet. It just happens.
You don't have to remove them, but it's the moral thing to do when someone doesn't want to be associated, so you do it. We're just such good people, that's all.
Yes.
So we're gonna lightning round this and then we'll be out?
Yeah. So, I don't know, do you guys want to go first?
You can fire out yours if you want.
Okay.
And then we can...
I have a list. So, honorable mentions that we didn't have time, but I think people should go and read. Obviously, we've mentioned a couple times 7400 by Callie Bold, Your Honor, League of Legends. SCP-7616 ARC, The Ballad of Captain Adrian M. Primrose Fetish Von Trevel by Phantom, which I just fucking love that title. SCP-7997, which is Corporate Apotheosis by Lord. This one's criminally underrated, in my opinion. SCP-7002, The Hungry Season by Big Sloth on My Face, because Sloth is crazy talented. And then finally, which is kind of an impressive project, and I didn't pick it for this discussion today because it's kind of impossible to talk about for only 10 minutes. SCP-7006 Initiative by Liren, Dejoric, Dark Stuff, Lizard Wizard, and Ep. And it is quite literally a multi-module tabletop RPG set kind of in the SCP universe, kind of in a fantasy universe. It works. It's an incredible project. It's visually stunning. And the fact that they actually made up from scratch a TTRPG is just kind of above and beyond. It's ridiculous.
Really is.
Yeah.
So who next?
Anybody.
Go.
Me? Okay. Please going. You go. All right. I'm going to go. Probably my favorite SCP now, 7005, The Neon God by Tufto, which just makes me cry every time I think about it.
That's in the top 10.
It's a top. It's that doesn't matter. This is the lightning round. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
I see.
We're only going to talk about ones that didn't really come up in those lists. Lucky Clover by Dr. Trindervon, which is 7037, which is very low rated. It's a new author, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's really clever with some good character bits. I really loved that one. 7766, New World Order by Jack Dragon X, which didn't do as well as it should have. It's a really cool, crazy cyberpunk world-building thing that was just a lot of fun to read. 7300, Plankton by LA3, which is another really fun article, because LA's articles are almost always fun. 7100 at Rainbow's End by Captain Kirby, which is just a really good, like, format screw. It's an in-universe how to write an SCP article, and it's a really cool story about luck and leprechauns and ladybugs. And some of those things are the same thing. And then there's one of the real standouts in the contests, which is 14th place, 7003, Three White Horses by They Call Me Tim, which is unusual as hell and truly unique and phenomenal article with just a great evocative post-apocalyptic thing going on. Anyway, that's just 6 that came to mind. There's tons of these that I love.
That one, this is not a dig, but like at first I genuinely didn't know what was going on, and had to like really like you cannot. This is not a dig. Yeah, you can't quickly read it because
all the characters in it are parched, like they've lost their fucking brains because they're just they need water, and they're all in the desert wandering around like drunk on being desiccated. Yeah. So it's really, really. They're all like, ugh.
That one's good. Really there's a few really bleak ones, but that one's good because it feels very otherworldly bleak.
Yes.
Like it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, great. Go for it. Plague.
So I got a few you guys already mentioned, of course. Neon God, absolutely beautiful article by Tufta. 7005. It almost edges out Lamplight for me. It's a very, very close race. Meet Me in the Stars by Fable Tiefling.
So
SCP 7999. Did extremely well in the contest. Most of the listeners probably read it already, but I bring it up because it uses my object class, so I very much appreciate that. Their Vegas Orientation, The House Loses by Rounder House. Hilarious article. We mentioned it in the emails. So good. Highly underrated. SCP-7726, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish by Uncle Nicolini. A very short article, part of the fire suppression. What are they called?
The fire suppression department.
Fire suppression department. So good. I love that one. And I will do At Rainbow's End, mentioned by Harry as well, by Captain Kirby. Like he said, it's how to be a Foundation Doctor, written as a SCP Foundation file.
A lot of fun.
Yep, good stuff. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for us. So, thank you for tuning in to this, non-GUI episode. We'll get back to doing normal GUI stuff soon. It should be, we have a couple of YouTubers lined up to come in and talk to us about Are We Cool Yet? So we should be doing that either next week or the week after.
Sounds fun. Right.
Thanks for showing up, Plague PJP.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. Yeah, I would love to have you back on again.
I hope to come back again.
Yeah, you definitely will.
Over and over.
You're one of my... I don't know, Plague. I don't know if I've told you this. You're one of my favorite people on SCP. So...
Aww. Made my cold dead heart go 3 sizes.
No, but it's still dead.
So sweet. That's so sweet and generous and non-selfish of you. Weddlecon, Weddle sweet. I won. I won.
God.